My entitled mother-in-law thinks that she owns her son, constantly demanding all these awful things out of him, while also ignoring the fact that he has horrible anxiety literally caused by her. And now that we're moving out and moving away, she's demanding that we stay closer so that we can meet her needs and still fall in the same cycle that my fiancé has dealt with his entire life. And at this point, we're honestly so frustrated that we seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my fiancé and I have been dealing with his mother, who is the entitled parent of this story. For a bit of background information to help explain, my fiancé, who I will refer to as Tom, lost his father young to a brain tumor. He was 10 when he passed away, so for the past 10 years, it's been him and his mom. His mom has controlled a lot of aspects of his life, down to keeping his meds and not letting him explore options for medication, while Tom has fibromyalgia and suffers from anxiety to the point where he's throwing up when he tries to travel. Tom had a really awful experience with his father's death, so his anxiety is based around medical situations and death itself. Despite knowing this, his mother has constantly shown tough love, which to her means little to no empathy and constantly pushing Tom to do things he's unable to. When living at home, he would cook for her and clean for her and make her bed, as well as walk the dogs and feed them, make her coffee whenever she asked for it, or even look after his grandma, do the laundry, mow the lawn, basically anything she can't bother to be doing herself. I mean, the list goes on and on. As I mentioned earlier, he has fibromyalgia, which means he is in pain most of the time, and things like making the bed would leave him having to lay down for hours. Throughout his life, his mom has talked him in and out of so many situations against his own better judgment, beginning with what GCSEs that he took, just to his image and self-expression. And for reference, these are some very important tests that you take in the United Kingdom. His mother has been a center point of his anxiety too, mainly because of the ways that she is with him, insisting he's the only one who can help her with his grandmother, and more guilt-tripping tactics. Tom has stated that he can't go through the process of a terminal illness, taking over another person he loves, and yet his mom seems to think that she has him and only him. Basically, everything with her is an issue if not to her liking. When we began dating, Tom opened up to me about her, and from the very beginning, I have advocated him to leave home as the detriment it has on his physical health and mental health is too extreme. Tom had zero space to talk about this behavior from his mom, so when he began living with me back in February of 2025, he has been able to open up to a therapist. Now, back in December of 2024, his grandma had a fall, and he assisted her along with his mom and told her on this day he cannot handle the deterioration of his grandmother's health. Well, due to this, him and I emptied the front room so that his grandma could live with him and his mother. Tom's grandma moved in, and during the move-in, his mom was ordering us about and trying to micromanage every step. And that's when I fully understood exactly what he has dealt with his entire life. Anyways, after that, the thank you was practically non-existent, and I only helped as I didn't want Tom to go through this alone. On New Year's Eve, Tom's mom broke her foot, which meant Tom and I had to stay with her for a while in this time, and I finally got to witness the audacity of this idiot. I smoked the grass, if you know what I mean, and Tom's mom suggested an entirely new wardrobe of clothing for when I'm at her house because the smell made her feel sick. I rely on benefits entirely as I am disabled, and I have complex PTSD-induced psychosis, so I can't afford this. I didn't smoke at her house or around her, it was just my clothing that smelled a bit grassy. It was endless comments and just chores all over the place, and at the end of it, we would just be excited to come back to my place and just rest. This was also the situation for months, and we were getting so fed up and burnt out. In December of 2025, we left Tom's mom's house for our usual 4 days off. However, from this point, we have not been back. And this is because Tom's anxiety had a major relapse and left him sobbing in my arms and throwing up at the thought of leaving the house. Due to this, the car has become a major difficulty and a source of chronic pain. His mom has not understood this and therefore has damaged the little relationship that they had. We have been looking to move out of my current flat due to being unhappy with where we are, but Tom's mom wants us to live within walking distance of her. However, me and Tom have plans to move somewhere else. Anyways, now his mom rings him up, asking him how the move is going, and she has been constantly recommending moving closer to her place, and today she asked us to move closer so that we can give her a break from looking after Tom's grandma, suggesting that if we move closer, we can claim an allowance for being a caretaker, even though neither of us are willing to do so. It's a responsibility that neither of us can hold. Our life is hard enough as it is, and looking after the elderly is not something we're able to do. It's not about abandoning family. It's about the trauma and disabilities, and the simple fact that we just don't want to live there. In this call, I lost my patience and I finally said, we can't pause our life and just move where you want. Tom has a lot of things he's going through already. I barely finished this sentence before she interrupted, insisting that I took it wrong. Well, Tom was really anxious, and I was raging sick of this woman, and sick of her thinking her son is just there to support her. She is his mother, and yet the roles are reversed. After the phone call, Tom received a message asking to speak without me present, and this was to say again that I misunderstood, but I didn't misunderstand. I stood up for Tom, and she didn't like that. So at this point, we've had enough of her behavior and her manipulation, but at this point, we don't know what to do. Oh man, I feel so bad for Tom, it's not even funny. Tom's mom sounds like a nightmare human being, and I'm so sorry that he had to deal with that. It's crazy how much damage a parent can do to a child, especially when the child is literally a grown adult and they're still having trouble functioning as an adult in society. So truly, I hope your fiance finds the help that he needs and that he gets away from his mother and doesn't have to deal with her in this capacity any longer, because she sounds like an awful human being, and I'm honestly so proud that he has stood up for him, because clearly his mom's been taking advantage of him for far too long. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My idiotic mom got scammed and bought a $7,000 skincare tool, but the second I tried to ask her about it, she got really pissed off at me and got incredibly nasty, making me question if I'm gonna end up exactly like my mom. Here's what happened. Okay, so my mom was recently scammed by one of those hard sell skincare companies that typically operate in malls and airports, and she literally purchased a skincare tool for $7,000. She emailed me all the details on it so I could save her warranty for her, and that's a long story in and of itself, but she basically emails me things so that I can save them for her. Among the things that she sent me is a picture of her smiling with a salesperson, looking like an absolute fool. Well, I Googled this skincare tool and I can see that it's a total scam. They start by telling people the tool is worth $12,000 and then offer it to them for $8,000. Based on what I read, most people resist long enough to get the cost down to about $1,500, but nope, my mom didn't do that. Instead, she paid $7,000 for it. I tried asking her about it, but in true old person fashion, she got all nasty with me over it. It is so frustrating. My grandma got scammed all the time by religious groups, and it used to drive my mom insane. And now my mom is constantly being robbed by natural health or beauty people. And it makes me wonder if all of us are doomed to become like this one day, because this is truly a sad thing to see. Wow, how did your mom not know that was a scam? $7,000 for skincare? Are you kidding me right now? Nothing should cost that much. Literally nothing with skincare or anything like that. Unless you're paying for like a laser therapy thing, but even then, I'm sure insurance or even like the self-pay cost wouldn't be that much. And I just love the fact that your mom got pissed off about it and got nasty with you, all because you asked questions about it and tried to get more information. So yeah, that kind of situation is definitely not your problem, and I really think that because she got pissed off at you, that's hopefully proof that she has buyer's remorse and probably regrets buying this piece of garbage. Am I the jerk for explaining to my future sister-in-law why her kids will never receive an inheritance from us? Because right now she's pissed off and she simply refuses to understand, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I have a brother who has been dating his girlfriend, who we will call Sarah, for 2 years now, and he proposed a couple of months ago. Sarah has 2 kids from her previous relationship, and she has an 8-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl. I would say that my parents and I are not very close to Sarah and her kids, but we are cordial and never had any problems before. My partner, myself, my brother, and Sarah attended the Easter dinner at my parents' house, and that's when all the drama happened. Sarah's kids were at their father's house, so Sarah used this celebration to confront us about my brother requesting a prenup. Basically, my brother explained to her that he expects them to sign a prenuptial agreement and that only his biological kids will have the right to inherit anything from our family assets. This is something that we as a family discussed before, and we all agreed that only our children should receive assets or money from our inheritance. My brother is free to pay whatever he wants for his stepchildren out of his own money, but my children and his biological children will never have to share anything that our family has with them. Well, Sarah claimed that we are being unfair and that we are treating her and her kids like some strangers instead of embracing them like family. She said that the normal and decent thing to do was for us to see her kids like my brother's kids, who should have equal rights to any children they may have together. Well, I told her sure, after she gets married to my brother, she will become our in-law and her kids will be my brother's stepchildren, but this does not mean that we have to share anything with them. I then asked her, will my future kids receive anything from her parents or from their biological father's parents? She said no, obviously, so I asked her, then why would her kids be entitled to receive anything from us? Sarah said because they will be our family, so I told her that we have plenty of cousins that are also family, but I don't go around wishing to share my inheritance with them. There was a lot of back and forth between us, and Sarah was not letting this go. Eventually, my brother asked her to stop because we were there to celebrate Easter and not to have this kind of conversation, but she kept on going, saying we need to clarify it once and for all. I told her from where we stand, everything is clear, and it is only her who has a problem. Well, she said that we're greedy and cruel to some kids, and I just snapped at her. I told her to deal with it. She is free to work off her butt and gather assets to leave her children, but we will never divide anything outside of our family, and she should not expect her children to be our problem or burden to finance. I honestly feel she is very manipulative and is using my brother for what she and her kids can get from him, but that's my brother's problem to decide if this is the kind of partner that he wants. So I just want to know if I was too blunt in telling her the truth, because right now I'm not sure what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk. I think the fact that she kept pushing the issue and being like, you're cruel, you're not thinking of my kids, how dare you? Like, honestly, that's so weird because most like inheritance agreements usually have the stipulation where it's like, yeah, only like direct descendants get the money, not anyone who's like a stepkid or anything like that. And that really is like a normal thing. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think you were well within your rights to snap at her and be like, listen, you've got to stop, because her attitude towards you was really entitled and super manipulative. My best friend told her mom my secrets, but twisted it in such a way where it ruined my family's reputation. And now I'm honestly not sure what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm from a very reputation-based culture, and it's normal to live with family until you're married. I'm a 24-year-old female, and I told my 23-year-old female friend that I was stressed about living at home with my parents. I also probably told her about some fights that I have with my parents, and made her swear not to tell a single soul, not even her sisters or her parents, and she assured me that she wouldn't. Fast forward a few years later, and I'm visiting a family friend, and she wanted to ask me in private if my relationship with my parents are okay. I asked her why she wanted to know, and she said, well, your friend said you wanted to run away from home and that you hate your parents. Mind you, I've since then mended my relationship with my parents. Also, plenty of other girls my age fight with their parents and want to move out. It's a natural part of growing up and needing your own space. But the fact that a completely unrelated person told me that my friend told her mom and her sisters, who in turn told someone else who told someone else. I'm literally crying as I type this because I feel so betrayed. The kicker is that her relationship with her mom is terrible. I'm talking to the point where she called her a narcissist and extremely mentally unstable, and yet still she told her? It's like, what are you doing? And now I'm at a point where I don't know what to do. I'm thinking of pretending that I don't even know that she did that, but the damage has been done. My parents' reputation are also affected by this, and they're the most supportive and sweet people. I feel so angry and betrayed. What should I do? Holy crap, that's a massive breach of trust. If a friend of mine did that, I would lose my mind. I would not only never trust them ever again, but I would also never share any information with them ever. Like, I would even think about just like removing them as a friend from my life altogether, because this is so toxic. Like, you really did try to share this in confidence, and they ruined that confidence by spreading a false rumor about you. Because as far as you told us, you didn't say you wanted to run away from home. You just said you're having some problems and you don't like what's going on right now. So for her to go around saying stuff like that, it's honestly just so awful. So in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I absolutely would approach her. I would say, hey, what you did was not okay, and I don't appreciate you spreading rumors about me. Because you said it yourself. You come from a very reputation-based culture, and the fact that they're trying to ruin that reputation, in my opinion, is something that should not go unpunished. My mother-in-law made my miscarriage all about her, and she spread the news like wildfire to the entire family as if this was some kind of fun gossip that she could talk about. And right now, me and my husband are so heartbroken that we seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my fiance and I found out that we were pregnant back in early January. We unfortunately miscarried and found out the baby had no heartbeat on February 26th. For about 2 weeks after that, I was physically going through a miscarriage, which meant that I was going through some very physically straining things while also being mentally distraught. I cried for a week straight. We lived in a different state from our family, so we were basically going through this all alone. As soon as we found out about the miscarriage, my fiance told my parents and then told his mother. His mother was excited about becoming a grandmother and whatnot, and I'm not sure how the phone call went, but presumably it went fine. However, the next day he was receiving text messages from distant family members sending their condolences or whatnot, but immediately we knew that she had been telling people. I told my fiance that he should at least tell his dad, as his parents are divorced, and tell his siblings before his mom gets to them first. Well, once he called them to tell the news, they already knew about it. In fact, everybody knew about this. This honestly pissed me off. I do not think it's her place to share this news, and also, she never texted me. She never called me to ask how I'm doing or anything like that. I felt like something so personal that I was experiencing was reduced to basically some sort of gossip. My fiance then texted her and said, "Why are you telling everybody?" And she just ignored the message. She never even tried to call him either. He decided to just ignore her as well, because she would text him periodically random stuff, like her flight information confirmation if she was flying, but again, it was just random stuff. So whatever. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, and we decided to just plan our wedding since we've been engaged for 3 years. I sent out our save the dates, which she has not responded to or asked us about. I felt that this would be the perfect opportunity for her to reach out and, I don't know, be a mother for once. But a couple of days ago, she FaceTimes my fiance, but he was working, so he called her back the next day. We thought she was finally going to ask about the wedding or maybe say sorry, but no, she was just calling because she was on vacation and wanted to show him some stuff. This annoyed my fiance, and he said to her, "Oh, I thought you were going to apologize." And she said, "I never saw that message." My fiance then said, "Okay, well, you still told everyone when it wasn't your place to." And she said, "I only told your dad and sister," which by the way was a complete lie, since distant family on her side have been texting us all about it. At this point, my fiance just hangs up because he just can't take the lies anymore. She then sent him a text message. "You know what? I'm sorry that you feel some type of way, or that you're trying to be some type of victims, because I feel the way I feel about losing the excitement in being a grandmother. It's unfortunate that you feel the need to punish me for my feelings. These are your choices. I am not a bad person. Clearly, you feel otherwise. That is your opinion. Sorry for not being what you expected as a mother." And it's like, ma'am, we kind of are the victims. Does she really think that she's the victim here? Because whatever she felt, we felt over 20 times over. At this point, I really hope she doesn't make it to the wedding, because she is just drama, because I am still shaken up by the way my mother-in-law treated me, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Oh man, I cannot believe she's acting like that, because seriously, that is so uncalled for. Because you hit the nail on the head. This mother-in-law literally made this miscarriage all about her. She's trying to be like, "Wow, my feelings are valid. Sorry you feel that way." But it's like, do you not realize that they lost a child? They literally lost their baby, and you're trying to make this about you? Like, my God, that is so inappropriate. And I guarantee you, the only reason she wanted to share the news with the rest of the family is so that she can somehow insert herself as like the middleman between the info. And I honestly can't stand people like that, and I can't stand the fact that she probably enjoyed sharing that with everybody, as if this is some kind of fun gossip to spread around, which by the way, it definitely is not. So truly, if I was in your place and I dealt with this, I would seriously consider like canceling her invitation to the wedding. I would say straight up, you can either apologize for what you did, or you're just not going to be welcome at the wedding. Obviously, that's your choice, and you know the situation way better than I do, but based off of what you said, there's no way on earth I would ever put up with that. Would I be the jerk if I didn't go to one of my best friend's bachelorette party when I also told her that I'm not going to her wedding? Because right now, I feel like I'm stuck and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So one of my best friends, who we will call Rachel, is having a destination wedding in 2026. We, as a friend group of 3 people, are straight out of college and finding our footing. Some are trying to move out, we need new vehicles, we have student loans, and not all of us have stable jobs yet. So basically, it's not a good time for us financially. The plane tickets are almost $1,000, plus the passport and fees being about $195, plus due to resort policy, we couldn't all split a room, so it would be about $700 each. On top of that, the bridesmaid dress is about $150, not to mention the other miscellaneous wedding costs that we would incur. But then Rachel wants a travel bachelorette party, which is a couple $100, plus any amount of money for her wedding shower and other events. My friends and I came to the extremely difficult decision that we will not be attending. But when we told her, it did not go over well. She grossly underestimated how much it would cost and made some very rude comments to each of us. We had a long conversation with her and tried to come at it as compassionately as possible. During that, Rachel said she absolutely could not have us at her bachelorette party. So we said we understood and told her to do what is best for her and her mental health. Well, fast forward a day and we were put in a group chat with Rachel and her wedding party, giving details about an Airbnb for her bachelorette party. It would be about $215 each girl, and there are 12 people, so we wouldn't even all get a bed, but we also didn't have to decide anything for a while. Over the next 2 months, Rachel has barely spoken to us, which is abnormal because we would all talk every single day. I said to the other girls, namely my college friends and not the whole party, that if she's going to freeze us out and resent us forever, then I cannot justify dropping a couple $100 on a trip that I'm not in a position to take. And when I said that, 2 of them agreed. But then fast forward to yesterday, we get a message from her matron of honor saying Rachel changed the Airbnb, so now it's going to be $500 a person, and part of our cut pays for Rachel's stay. Well, us 4 talked privately and agreed that it is not feasible, especially for someone not really talking to us. Rachel's maid of honor also said she cannot afford that. Rachel's mom told her to choose something cheaper, and she chose a new place that would be $240 per girl, which doesn't include daily food or whatever event she might want to do. So right now I feel really stuck. I know to many that $240 is probably not a lot, but to me it is. is. Plus, I don't like how she's freezing us out, has the nerve to pick an Airbnb that's over $5,000, and just the general microaggressions from her. Part of me wonders if we were only invited so that the split Airbnb costs would go down. I honestly can't even see her wanting to be friends in a year, so I don't know if I can just justify dropping that cash. Like, how do you expect people, especially fresh out of college, to spend thousands of dollars on your wedding, your bachelorette party, and your shower? So seriously, would I be the jerk if I decided not to go? I feel like a horrible person, but I think if I do go, at this point, it's only to keep up the appearances of being in a friendship. What should I do? Okay, honestly, I do not think you should go on this because this sounds insane. First of all, she's not respecting the fact that you guys said multiple times you don't want to do this, but also it seems like the price is always fluctuating. How on earth is this fair for anybody trying to plan things out? And sure, Rachel's your friend, you love her, and you went to college with her, and you want the best for her no matter what. But the way she's going about doing this is really immature and very stupid. Because it's like, listen, you're all poor college students who just recently graduated. No one can afford even half of what she's describing. So in my opinion, I think you should stick to your values and say, no, I'm not going. Because this entire situation sounds incredibly crappy. My entitled parents guilt trip me into buying a house with them because they feel it's my obligation to pay them back and contribute to their retirement. But my experience with them has been nothing but toxic, as they constantly put me down and use me for my money and my time. And right about now, I feel incredibly trapped and very stuck. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so when I was younger, my family and I grew up on low income. My dad was the only income earner, and he worked a blue-collar job, while my mom was a stay-at-home mom. In 2022, I got guilt-tripped into buying a house with my parents that they simply couldn't afford on their own. I was pressured to sign as a co-borrower since my parents could not get approved for the loan with my dad's low income. I was paying the entire mortgage since the mortgage is more than my dad's entire monthly salary. They keep saying they sacrificed so much for me by raising me, and now it's my obligation to pay them back by buying them a house, paying their mortgage, and contributing to their retirement. I've been feeling resentful of all of my friends who can live at home rent-free and have parents who don't treat them like an ATM or retirement plan in the future. I can't afford to move out and pay rent in addition to the mortgage, and I've been feeling hopeless and very stuck. I can't afford to max out my 401k each year, and I'm putting less into savings because of this burden they put on me. I have goals of moving out and buying a house in the future, and I feel like I could never achieve that now. I feel resentful of my parents for putting me in this situation as a result of their poor financial decisions in the past. We previously had a house with a mortgage that they could afford, but they wanted to move to this house because of nicer weather and the backyard. But it's all at a huge financial cost. It's a house that I didn't even want, but my parents kept saying this house is their dream house, and the old house makes them feel down, and I would be responsible for their mood and poor health. They keep reminding me of how much time, energy, and resources they used to raise me, and now it's my duty to pay them back for all that they have done. Living at home is honestly horrible and contributes to my sense of hopelessness and worthlessness. My parents are always arguing and at each other's throat 24/7. Every day I get criticized and called fat, ugly, lazy, that I walk ugly and I eat too loudly. I feel trapped and stuck, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, that is an awful place to live in. Your parents are very clearly taking advantage of you, but I don't think you need to tell me that. It kind of seems like you know what's going on. And sure, you got guilt-tripped into buying this house with them and being a co-borrower and like getting all this stuff for them, but here's the thing, you can right that wrong by moving out if you really want to. Now, I don't know the legality of all of this, so maybe talk with like a real estate lawyer of some kind, but seriously, if I was in your shoes, I would start the process of moving out and moving on with my life. They are literally guilt-tripping you into staying in that house just so you can pay for literally everything, because you've got it right. They're using you as an ATM and a retirement plan. They suck at managing their money, so they're forcing you to do it at the age of 27. And trust me when I say this, you do not deserve that. This is all literally at your detriment, and I guarantee you if you move out, you will feel so much better. I know I would, especially if I was getting treated like garbage in the way you're getting treated. And you know what? If they really want to be like, wow, if you don't help us with this, our mood is going to be awful and our retirement is going to be ruined. Well then congratulations, you ruined your own retirement. Like all that stuff about them shifting blame onto your shoulders, it is all ridiculous and I would not put up with that for a second. So honestly, I wish you the best in this endeavor because the way your family is treating you is so selfish and uncalled for. You do not deserve this kind of treatment in the slightest. And I hope for your your own happiness, this all gets worked out sooner than later. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My grandmother feels entitled to my inheritance money that I got from my passed away mother. And after receiving several of her awful comments, I'm now left at a crossroad and I seriously now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my mom passed away about a year and 4 months ago, and I was listed as the sole beneficiary for her 401k and life insurance. So I received everything. Plus, before she passed away, she had terminal cancer, so she directly told me that she wanted me to have everything, and even talked to me about taking money out of her 401k early before passing away to ensure that I would receive it. After my mom's death, my grandma has acted entitled to my money on several different occasions and has expressed, along with my mom's partner, that they think the money should have been distributed amongst the family equally. I am my mother's only child, and my father passed years before her, so even if she didn't explicitly express her wish for me to receive the inheritance verbally, I would think that I'm meant to receive all of the inheritance, especially by the natural order of things. My grandmother texted me yesterday on Valentine's Day, all without wishing me a happy Valentine's Day or even a simple hello first. She just told me that I forgot to cash a $700 healthcare refund check that my mom received after her death, and said that she sure could have used the money for her federal taxes if she knew I was going to lose the money. Dealing with probate after my mom's death was very stressful alongside the grief, and it was never my intention to forget to cash a check, obviously. And I guess I understand her mentality that the money is useful and should be utilized, but it really bugs me the way that she came at me, and the fact that she feels entitled enough to say that she could have used it for her taxes when the money isn't hers whatsoever. That call isn't even hers to make. I am the PR on my mom's estate, and why would the money be used to pay for her federal taxes? I honestly don't really know how to respond to her, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, your grandma can feel however she wants to feel. Right now, she's just trying to guilt trip you into giving her money. That's all this is about. Your mom clearly knew what she was doing in giving you the money, because clearly this is how your grandmother's gonna act when she doesn't have money. And that's really unfortunate because, like, this is the last thing you need on your plate. Like, things are already hard enough as it is, and the last thing you need is to be pressured by your grandmother, all because she's missing out on free money as she sees it. So if I was in your shoes, I would just ignore that message and not even look back, because your grandmother is being very toxic right now, and you do not deserve that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not wanting my fiance's ex in his wedding party? Because right now he is planning to include her despite my protest, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 27-year-old female, and my fiance is 33 years old. We have been dating for about 4 years now and engaged last year. Prior to us dating, my fiance dated his childhood best friend for 8 years. We'll call her Elizabeth, that's not her real name. They were briefly engaged before calling it off, and from what I was told, they decided to break it off because they were getting married for the wrong reasons. They were planning to get married because it was the next step, and that since their families were best friends, he needed to marry her. After they broke off the engagement, they remained friends. Since the beginning of our relationship, I knew that Elizabeth was in my fiance's family's lives. Elizabeth and my fiance's moms are best friends. She is also best friends with his younger sister, and my fiance and her are friends with the same social circle. I don't have a problem with Elizabeth and her friendship with my fiance. I actually like her as a person, and I would also consider her a friend. However, there are times when we hang out that I really do feel left out. I feel almost like a third wheel, and this is because of their inside jokes and shared childhood stories. I have always tried to be open-minded about their friendships since he assured me that they are only friends, and I do trust the both of them. My fiance and I are now finalizing our wedding party. Since both of us have best friends who are the opposite sex, we agreed that it's okay to have the opposite sex in our own wedding party. Well, I told him who I wanted to ask to be in my wedding party, and he mentioned to me that it would mean a lot to him to have his sister be a part of my wedding party. Now, I get along with his sister well enough, so I agreed to include her. When he listed his wedding party, he mentioned Elizabeth, and when he did that, I was taken aback. I told him that I wasn't comfortable with having her be in the wedding party. I told him that I am more than happy to have her attend the ceremony and the reception, and that she can sit with his family and be in the family pictures. However, that wasn't good enough for him. He said that it's his wedding party and that it was his decision who's going to be in it, that I have the right to choose my own wedding party, so he should be able to choose whoever he likes. I told him that's not fair because I'm not having my high school sweetheart in my wedding party. This is becoming a huge fight between us, and he said he is putting his foot down and Elizabeth is going to be in his wedding party. I told him that I will not budge on this. Out of anger, I told him to choose. It's going to be me or her. If she's in the wedding party, then I won't be standing in the altar. He responded by telling me that I was acting crazy and that he's going to stay with his brother until I calm down and be reasonable. Well, it's been 3 days now, and he texted me twice since the fight. First, to ask me if I've calmed down and if I was ready to be reasonable, and the second to ask me if I agreed with his wedding party list. I told him my answer is still no, and that I don't know if I can let this one go. So honestly, am I the jerk here? What should I do? Honestly, I completely understand where you're coming from. I don't think you're the jerk in this scenario, and I think your fiance is being very unreasonable for having his ex in his wedding party. And this is not just his ex, this is his ex-fiance. Like, they were gonna get married. I don't know about you, but if I was in the original poster shoes, I would feel really awkward about having them in the wedding party. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but it really just would not make me very comfortable at all. Now, I don't think the ultimatum was a good idea. I think that only increased the tension between the two of you, and I definitely would have chosen against that if I was in your shoes, but I think your boundaries are all still the same. And also, why is he fighting so hard to have her in his party? This is your wedding as well, after all, isn't it? If my fiance was like, no, I don't want them in your wedding party, I would be like, oh, okay, I just won't invite them. It really would be that simple. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. I really do think that it's ludicrous that he's digging in the way that he is, and it clearly shows that his priorities are completely mixed up. My entitled friend intentionally tried to make me feel sad, all because I was alone on Valentine's Day. And I'm honestly not sure what to make of this situation, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so both my friend and I are in relationships. I'm engaged to the love of my life, but with that, we have to be apart for a bit. My fiance and I are doing the K-1 fiance visa, so we have to be apart for a year max, but luckily the government is making it go by fast, so it most likely will be under a year. And trust me, the long distance is hard on the both of us. But you know what? We're making it work. Luckily, I have a lot of work vacations, and I'm seeing him on Sunday for a whole week in London, and then in August, I'm spending a month in his home country of South Korea. Now, my friend is in a toxic on and off again relationship. They are honestly a match made in Hades. She has told me her boyfriend was cheating on her with a lesbian, and she made these claims for a while. Now, regarding cheating, she has said that he was going to cheat on her during her birthday, but even with all the cheating, they always seem to get back together. She goes from telling me how horrible he is to being the happiest girl alive. Well, since today is Valentine's Day, I encourage myself to not give it too much thought, so I won't make myself sad that my fiance isn't here today. We FaceTime, made a lovely Instagram post, and told each other how much we love each other. I planned just to have the night to myself, maybe watch a horror movie and just have some popcorn. But that's when my friend called me, and I knew right away that she would be bragging about her plans. When I answered the phone, she said to me, "Hey girl, I'm just checking in on you since you don't have Valentine's Day with your man." And I said to her, "Oh yeah, I'm fine. I honestly don't care since I'm seeing him in a few days." Now, luckily the conversation changed, but she kept going into detail about Valentine's Day. But I just told myself to let her have this and to let her go off. But I started to feel like she was playing it up just to try and hurt my feelings, like it really did feel extra. She told me that her boyfriend bought her a $300 ring, that they were going for dinner and all this other stuff. Now, it was fine initially, but she kept repeating herself. Then she said to me that she feels sorry for me that I'm alone on Valentine's Day, and that really hurt to hear, but I just said I don't really care. I guess I tried to push the narrative that I don't care, but then her brother walked past and she asked him what his Valentine's Day plans were. He said his plans are doing nothing, and she went off on him saying that she feels bad that he's doing nothing for Valentine's Day, and she couldn't imagine being alone for Valentine's Day. Her brother just kept repeating himself by telling her the holiday isn't for him and he doesn't care about it at all. Funny enough, a few days ago, my friend was telling me that she fears her boyfriend won't do anything for Valentine's Day, since according to her, he's not telling her what type of gift he wants, and then proceeded to get upset because she didn't want to buy him an Xbox. He also told her that Valentine's Day is a white person holiday and blamed white people for taking his money. I told my fiance about this, and he said he thinks she's doing it intentionally to hurt my feelings and to make me feel upset or jealous. My fiance has pointed out that she has done stuff like this before, and he's not surprised that she would do it again. I tried so hard not to let it affect me, but in a way it really does. So I don't really know if I'm being sensitive or if this is actually intentional, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were doing it intentional. They were obviously trying to make you feel jealous, all because you didn't have your fiance on Valentine's Day. Like, that's the only reason she called you up. She was just trying to make you jealous. And I guarantee you she's the type of friend where if you did that to her, that would be devastating to her and she would not know what to do. It's one of those like glass cannon fragile types who can really put salt in the wound and like add to the fire, if you will. But the second you turn that on them, they just absolutely crumble. So if I was in your shoes, I would just brush that off and pay her no mind. She clearly has a thing for making people feel like garbage. And if anything, it just proves the kind of person she really is, and hopefully would inform your decision of hanging out with her in the future. Am I the jerk for announcing my adoption publicly on social media, even though I didn't tell my biological mother yet? Because right now, a lot of people are very upset, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm a 19-year-old male, and I was recently adopted. And yes, this is an adult adoption, and I had many reasons to want this, but it first requires some background. My biological father was married before he met my biological mother. He had 3 daughters with his first wife, and when the younger 2 were still babies, his first wife became ill, and for 5 years, the oldest of the 3 was taking care of her sick mother and raising her younger sisters while she was still only a child herself. The biological father went off the rails when his first wife got sick and started drinking heavily and abandoned his family when they needed him the most. 3 months after his first wife died, the 3 girls were taken from him. Then they separated the oldest from her youngest sisters because she was refusing to let someone else parent them, and they worried it would chase away families for the younger 2. They found a family long term, but the oldest was bounced around. My biological family met, and then he decided to take custody of his oldest back. My biological mother knew the background and was aware that my biological father was a drunk. She was aware that he lost his kids and abandoned them long before they were taken, and this is since he was given rights to visit them occasionally. He got his oldest back, but of course she was angry and bitter at her father, as well as at my biological mother. Both of my biological parents knew how she felt, and guess what they did? Well, that's right, they had me. She hated me, and I remember my biological father asking her why she didn't show me the same love and affection that she did the other girls. His daughter would ask me, why would I love it? Why should I show it affection? She and my biological father fought a lot. She ran away a lot. She got into trouble way before I could even remember, but I still heard about it later in life. And this is because she tried to take her sisters away from their foster family. My parents were the only people there for me and who saw how messed up it was to have me when they had that mess going on. My biological family only got married a few years after I was born, and there's a photo where they drag my biological father's oldest to the wedding, and that photo says exactly how she felt about it. My biological father drank a lot by the time his daughter left the house for good, and he started drinking and blamed it on the fights between him and his daughter. My biological mother would act like I didn't remember anything, and yet would tell me I had 3 sisters all the time. She always denied that it had an impact on me. But I had my parents, and at the age of 15, I moved in with them unofficially, and then they agreed to adopt me as an adult if I went to therapy for a year, just to be sure that it was really what I wanted and that I wasn't using it for an unhealthy reason. It was official a couple of weeks ago, and I announced it on social media. Well, my biological mother was so upset. My extended family on that side were really mad that my mom betrayed her sister like that, and they were mad at me for making the big social media reveal. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Honestly, I don't think you're the jerk at all. You were just announcing something that was really important to you, and you had every right to do that online if you wanted to. So no, I don't think you're the jerk, and I think their reaction and the fact that they feel betrayed is completely unreasonable. Am I the jerk for paying my mother-in-law as well as buying her a ticket home after she was no help for helping my wife and I with our brand new kid? Because at this point, I'm being called a jerk, and I now seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my wife and I just welcomed our first and likely only child at Christmas time. My mother-in-law came to stay with us and tried to help, but here's the thing. She was not helpful at all. She constantly disagreed with how we were doing things. She did nothing around the house except help the baby, so my wife ended up doing a bunch of housework instead of relaxing. I would get home to an exhausted wife and her mom who fought me for time with my kid. I would make dinner for the 3 of us and do what I could to get stuff done around the house before passing out and starting over the next day. I tried talking to my wife about it, but she won't stand up to her mom. I tried talking to her mom, and she said she's not here to be our maid, and she's only here to help out the baby. So you know what? I got sick of it, and I booked her a ticket home. 3 days before the flight, I thanked her for all her help, and I told her that we would take care of it from here. Well, needless to say, she was angry. She says that I'm ungrateful for everything that she is doing for us, and that she took time time off of work to help out. She started crying about it on social media, and some of her friends and family were joining in saying that I was unappreciative. She drives old people around to make appointments, and she makes about $2,000 a month. I mean, it's not even a full-time job. So I gave her $3,000 and said that we appreciate that she lost wages by helping, so that should cover any expenses that she made. I commented on all of her posts that she had been paid for her time, and I thanked everyone who reminded me that she had lost money to help us. Well, she is back home now and whining that she cannot see her grandbaby every day. My wife thanked me for handling it, but some people are now saying I was heartless for making it all about money. So I'm honestly convinced that I can't win, but I don't think I'm the jerk like my mother-in-law is saying. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Your mother-in-law was being obnoxious in your house. She wasn't doing exactly what she was supposed to do, and instead used that as time to only look at the baby. It's like, I'm sorry, yeah, the baby's there, but we need help with like all this other stuff. You've got to be kidding, right? Like you're working all day just for her to sit around with a baby. Meanwhile, your wife is exhausted after, I don't know, giving birth, and your mother-in-law isn't doing anything to help. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. She very clearly had her priorities mixed up, and she wasn't going to help out in the way that she should have been helping. And I also think it's good that you gave her $3,000 so you could literally shut everybody up when it comes to the money issue. And I think you're right. Regardless of what you do, I don't think you're going to win. But at least you can shut down that garbage about you not paying her. An entitled Karen loses her mind on me when I correct her kids and tell them not to destroy public property. And I was honestly astonished by this entitled Karen's entitlement, as well as her claiming that I ruined their vacation, all because I told their kids to start behaving. Here's what happened. So I want to start off by saying cruise ship Karens are for real. After a disappointing buffet dinner of the same food that we also served in the main dining room, we wanted some machine soft serve ice cream. We wandered around to try and find it, and eventually we did. As we approached the machines, there were 3 little kids ages 8 through 11 getting ice cream with no adults present with them. And these kids were not behaving. They were laughing while dumping their ice cream cones on the machine trays, making piles of messes of soft serve and cones, then trying to redo it again and again. There were 4 separate piles of them doing it. The machine was still dripping ice cream from the spout, all because of their bad behavior. So I start to fill my cone with swirl ice cream, and the kids come back before I'm even done. They look ready to cause more stupidity, so I turn to them and I say, "Stop messing around with the ice cream. I saw what you did." I then go and sit down with my husband. Well, a few seconds later, some guy and his kid walk around from behind me, and the kid slaps his hand super hard on top of the railing, separating the walkway from the table that we sat at. The dad also slapped his hands on a support beam while walking, so I guess like father, like son. When they were a few feet further away, I said, "How rude," just like Stephanie Tanner from Full House, only loud enough for my husband to hear. Then, a few minutes later, some 40-year-old old lady in a swimsuit and towel walked in a hurry past us, looking around probably for her lost kids. She then turned to me loudly, forcefully asking me if I was the one who criticized her kids for getting ice cream. I said to her, yes, they were messing around, acting like ice cream cones were toys, dumping their ice cream into piles and thinking it was funny. And when they came back around to try and do it again, I told them to stop messing around, as I saw exactly what they did. That is really bad behavior, and they should be supervised if they're gonna disrespect public spaces that other people use. Well, this entitled Karen literally did not care at all about what I said. She said in response, "Well, my kids are trying to have a fun vacation with their cousin." But I responded by saying, "Well, then you should probably supervise the little kids." She said to me, "Well, someday when you have kids, you'll be annoyed and offended when other people try to tell you how to raise your kids." I said to her that I wasn't expecting some kids to be messing around with ice cream like it's a toy, and that it's her job to supervise them and control them, not other people around them. She says to me, "We were in the next room over in the buffet waiting for the kids to come back to us with their ice cream cones." Then her husband comes over and he says, "Yeah, well, there was some kid walking past her and slammed his hands on the railing, but then she was rude and called them out for it." But like seriously, I was rude? Some 10-year-old boy was inches away from slapping me instead of a walking rail. The Karen then said, "You shouldn't tell other people's kids how to act or tell parents how to raise their kids. Don't you ever talk to my kids ever again, you jerk." As she leaned over the walkway railing, he grabbed her like a mime with a cane and told her to let it go and walk away. He probably didn't want to see her attack someone at the bare minimum. It was almost like he was done with the argument because he was so used to her acting this way. And this just screams out entitlement, bad habits, constantly not supervising your kids, not enforcing rules of behavior to the kids, not to mention not behaving behaving like adults should, as well as setting a bad example of behavior for their kids. And she also was making excuses with unnecessary details and was literally trying to deflect blame away from themselves. Now, in hindsight, if the lady had been more calm in her approach, I would have said my thoughts to her among the following. I would have said something like, just because the cruise ship curfew for minors is 10 p.m., it doesn't mean you can let your under 12-year-old kids walk away and simply do their own things, especially after dark. And you know what? Just because maybe they let their kids get treats at the neighborhood market or the corner store at home, all unsupervised by the way, it doesn't mean that they should do the same thing in an unfamiliar environment after dark while on vacation, especially on a cruise ship. I mean, kids left unsupervised will let loose and misbehave because they know their parents aren't watching, but forget other adults might remind them of the rules of society. And you know what? Adding in extra details about being on vacation with their cousins, and I, some total stranger, ruined their vacation because I called them out on their misbehavior and misuse of private property, literally proves that they need to supervise their kids better. I also think it's okay for other people to say sternly that you're misbehaving, that this is for everyone and not just you, so please use it right. And you know what? Just because I didn't have kids or babies next to me doesn't mean she can dismiss my thoughts, because you know what? What I had to say was completely valid. And if that Karen had just been more reasonable, then we could have had a conversation like adults instead of this turning into a shouting match from the entitled Karen. Yeah, that entitled Karen and her kids and the cousin were completely out of line. Just because you're on vacation doesn't mean you get to destroy other people's property, or even public property for that matter. Like, I totally understand you want to let loose and be able to have some fun, but there is definitely a line, and those kids should definitely have not been on their own. So truly, good for the original poster for standing up and saying something, because those kids were blatantly misbehaving, and that's regardless of whatever that entitled Karen tries to say. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not wanting a party thrown at our home that would be hosted by people that we don't get along with? Because right now, I am completely at my wit's end, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So my sister and I had a falling out with my brother and his wife after they would go around telling family members made up awful stories and scenarios about us. There was a big confrontation, and now we don't speak to them. They have always stirred the pot, and my brother still randomly stops by my parents' house, which is where we live, but it's when we aren't home. Now, my mother has always had a soft spot for him and will prioritize his feelings over ours, even though he treats her really badly. He yells at her, curses at her, and has even stolen from her in the past, but she always just says that he's my son and I can't be a jerk like them, and then continues allowing this behavior. Well, yesterday I found out that my brother and sister-in-law are now hosting a party here. I asked my mom why this wasn't brought up beforehand and why she didn't consider how we would feel and what we were supposed to do while they were here. Now, I don't have enough time to write out all the awful things they said about everyone, but more so about my sister. My sister-in-law would call her awful names behind her back and tell people awful and untrue things about her. I know if my sister is in the same room as my sister-in-law, there will be a big confrontation again. I asked my mom why she hadn't considered this since we live here as well. I know ultimately it's their home, but we do pay rent and we were not taken into account. There is close family being invited, so how are we supposed to either stay in our rooms or just not be around or leave until the party ends? It's just insane to me that she's okay with them hosting a party here when they've both said the most vile things about my mother as well, with this especially coming from my sister-in-law. After our confrontation, my sister-in-law said that she would never step foot in our house again and that she wants nothing to do with us. But now that they need something because they don't have a home to host a party in, they come asking my mother knowing that she can't say no to him. I told my mother how this made us feel, and she just made it about herself and how much this affects her. I simply asked why there wasn't an alternative presented, like maybe the party being at a park or someone else's house or something like that. And to top it all off, this is a party for a child who's 8 years old. Now, I know my niece isn't at fault, but I truly feel an alternative solution was needed in this case. I again warned her that if they go through with this, knowing my sister, it will not end well. After I expressed how I felt, she literally stayed quiet and said nothing. And honestly, at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Before we go any further, the original poster actually has an update. Here's what they had to say. Okay, so this morning, my mom asked to speak to me and my sister, and she actually apologized for not taking our feelings into consideration. Apparently, last night, she decided to ask my brother if he had considered what we were supposed to do, since we weren't invited to a party being held at our our house. But when she asked him this, he literally said, "That's not my problem." She asked why we couldn't just get together and work things out for the better, to which he went back to his usual behavior and began saying awful things to her. Now, for the record, I've stated before that I'm fine trying to talk things out because I have nothing to hide. That is, if he's willing to change and make things right. Well, he then told my mom that he's not fixing anything. He said to her, "Deep down, they know they're in the wrong, but it upsets me to no end that you don't see that." He then went on to call us unintelligent liars, and then he threatened to cancel the party and basically said that she's horrible and ridiculous and is making his wife cry. My mom said she had a moment of clarity. She told us that he's clearly afraid of talking to the two of us because he'd have to face the truth of all the awful things that they did. I mean, why else does he deflect and yell at me every time I've asked him to try and talk things out? If he thinks he's going to continue treating me like this, then he's wrong. So she says she ended things by telling him the following: "All I did was ask you a simple question and you couldn't give me a simple answer. If you want to cancel the party, then that's on you, but don't you try to guilt me into compliance anymore." Now, I know it's not realistic to think that she's going to change overnight, but I am glad she was finally able to stand up for herself and actually take us into consideration for once. I'm sure there is more to come since it's my brother, and as of right now, he said he's canceling because my sister-in-law feels uncomfortable. But with all things considered, I seriously need to know, am I the jerk for making a fuss over this? What should I do? You are definitely not the jerk, and I think your concerns were completely valid. Your brother and your sister-in-law are absolutely at fault, and the way they've been treating you is completely inappropriate. And the fact that he would talk to his own mother like that is so devastating to hear, and it's very obvious that he was only using her when he felt it was convenient. Like the sister-in-law saying, "Oh, we're never gonna step foot in your house ever again." But suddenly, when they need something, they're like, "Oh, psych, can we have a party there instead?" And that's just crazy to me because that shows their hand completely. It shows that they don't care and that they're literally only using the mom in this situation so that they can get what they want. So truly, good for you for speaking up and saying your piece, as well as your mom finally seeing the truth, even if just for a second, because your brother's behavior is completely unacceptable, and it's really good that your mom is beginning to see that. Am I the jerk for saying my stepmom can't take back how she treated me as a child? Because right now she is trying to insert herself in my wedding, and after I refuse to allow her to play any role in that, I'm now being called a jerk, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 24-year-old female and have always had a rocky relationship with my stepmother, who we will call Cindy. Cindy is not her real name. She came into my life when I was 13 years old, and pretty much as soon as she and my dad were married, she became very pushy about taking up a parental role. She came to all of my events and stuff, which I tried to appreciate, but she also had this attitude where she would say, "It's my house too, and I get to make the rules." And this is right after moving in with dad. And I guess she was the bad cop. She was the one who thought I didn't have enough chores, that my grades weren't good enough, and that I needed screen time limits as well as several other things. And that obviously led to a lot of arguments. I hit the last straw when I turned 17 years old. The lawn needed cutting before Sunday, and my dad said that he'd do it Saturday afternoon. So I made plans to go hang out with my friends for the day. While I was out, Cindy messaged me saying I shouldn't have let dad do the lawn because he'd had a very tiring week and that I would be doing it, which is her usual MO basically. I said no and stayed out with my friends, and when I got home, she was furious and tried to ground me, and it turned into this big stupid argument where I pulled out the classic card by saying that you're not my mom. My dad ended up stepping in, and I wasn't grounded, but he did ask me to try and get along with her. But it didn't matter because she decided that she was done. She just kind of stopped acknowledging me, and we basically became roommates who hated each other. I wasn't even allowed to eat food that she bought, and it wasn't special stuff, but if the bread ran out, for an example, and she was the only one to replace it, then I couldn't have it. It was all just really tense, and I ended up spending a lot more time at my mom's apartment until I went to college. I've never formally blocked her or gone no contact, but we just haven't spoken since. She never came anytime I met with dad or anything like that. That is, until my fiancé and I announced our engagement. The wedding is over a year away, but Cindy sent me a long text message congratulating me and asking for all the details so that she could help plan. She was asking about coming to dress fittings, and if we wanted an engagement party, and if she could make a speech at the wedding. Basically, she was asking about all the mother of the bride stuff and pretending the last 11 years didn't happen. Now, I didn't reply until dad reached out asking why I didn't. And you know what? I was honest with him. I told him straight up that I'm weirded out by this. I'm happy for Cindy to come as a +1, but she's not getting any role at the wedding. And we're actually not even doing a head table just because I don't want to share a table with her or separate her from dad. And because she's not my mom. And the last time I saw her, she was insistent about that. And this has turned into a whole thing. He says she's really hurt and that he's rethinking coming to the wedding because she doesn't want to go. I say that she can't take back what happened, and at the very least, she should have apologized before reaching out like this. Mom and my partner are supportive of me, and I've had messages from several people on dad's side saying that I'm the jerk for punishing Cindy, and it's honestly getting to me. So I really need to know, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk at all, because I think what you're asking is not that big of a deal. For starters, the people on your dad's side are completely wrong, and they don't know the details of how Cindy treated you growing up. There was clearly animosity, and Cindy had some weird power trip that nobody checked her on. And that's unfortunate, and that literally is at your expense. So for her to now come into your life and be like, ooh, I'm gonna help you out with your wedding. Let's go dress shopping and do all this other stuff. It's like, I'm sorry, but who are you again? You've played no role in my upbringing, and you literally made my life miserable as a kid. So in all honesty, I don't blame you for saying, hey, you can come to my wedding, but you're not gonna play a role in my wedding, and that you're only gonna be a +1 to my dad, and that's it. Because I think you have it right. She literally should have apologized for the way she treated you. And in my opinion, that absolutely should have been addressed first, instead of her trying to step in as this perfect stepmom that she most definitely never was. My roommate keeps bringing the kids that she babysits over to our house and has them stay for long hours almost every single day. And I'm now at the point where I really don't like this, and I'm trying to figure out if I would be the jerk if I speak up and say something. Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so we're a couple and we share a townhouse with another couple. Things have been going great and I had great rapport with my roommates. We signed for a 1-year lease and our lease is up in 2 months. I love this town and I would love to live here, but this situation has driven a wedge between our relationship as roommates. Lately, one of the roommates got a gig as a babysitter and nanny, and things were going great. I was actually happy for her since she had been struggling to find work for quite a while. From her description, the job was supposed to be going to the client's house and babysitting while the parents are going off to work, which involved dropping kids and picking up kids from school, as well as many other duties that a nanny would partake in. Now, we value our privacy, and we are quite an introverted couple, and the couple we live with are as well. The roommate that got the nanny job is very introverted and loves to stay at home, and to my thinking, I believe this is why she keeps bringing the kids over to our home, even though she's supposed to be babysitting at their home. Now, here's the problem. We rented this townhouse with the intention of having just 2 couples, and having the sense of safety and privacy that we wanted, but lately she has been bringing the kids every evening to wait for her mom to pick them up, and we're talking from like 4 o'clock until 7 o'clock p.m. Her husband works from 5 to 7, and it might be inconvenient for her since her husband won't be able to pick her up in time. I even told them I wouldn't mind going to pick her up at 5 or 6 o'clock or whenever she is done with work, and this is all just to give them the hint that I don't want the kids showing up at our house every day. I would come back from work on errands around dinner time or during lunch break and find kids in the common area, sometimes quiet but sometimes rowdy. This happens randomly as well. She would bring the kids randomly without informing us, and from our perspective, we feel uncomfortable with this since this is our home and we want to be able to feel comfortable and feel free to roam around our house. We also have a cat that we have to keep in our room so as to not accidentally scratch the kids. I mean, that is a liability. We feel trapped in our room with the cat when the kids are here, and it just doesn't feel like a home anymore. So I need to know, would I be the jerk to confront them and tell them that we did not sign up for this and that the kids are not allowed to be here? I am a pretty accepting guy, and if the kids come visit us like once a month or so and we are informed, I would have no issue. But this has become a regular thing, and sometimes the kids even sleep over at our house. I also have friends over at our townhouse, but I always tell my roommates in advance, and it's once in a blue moon that they show up. It's such a loss, and I seriously don't know what to do. Personally, in my opinion, I don't think you would be the jerk to speak up and say something to them. Like, this clearly is bothering you, and I think you have a really good point. This is something that you did not sign up for, and it doesn't sound like she's supposed to be bringing them to the house anyways. So truly, I don't think you're the jerk. I think you have every right to voice your concern, and I think it all just comes down to you speaking up and trying to share exactly how you feel. Am I the jerk for telling my son that if he lives here part-time at our house, then he's not going to get full-time benefits? Because right now, my wife says that I'm pushing him away, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I have 2 kids, a son who's 23 years old and a daughter who's 20. They both live at home as the renting prices are way too high. why. My son works construction making $22 an hour, and my daughter has an unpaid internship with her program. My daughter has some money saved up from working summer jobs and offered to pay rent, but I said no, as it would take longer for her to save up and move out. My daughter does a lot around the house, plus she has a full-time internship until April. She also cooks and cleans, she shovels the driveway and then some. Even when she's tired and after she's had a long day of work, she's still willing to help out. Well, my son, however, has never offered to pay rent, and I wouldn't expect him to, and spends maybe Thursday to Sunday at his girlfriend's place. He doesn't do any chores and comes home and stays in his room the entire night, or goes out with friends or to the gym. For reference, he usually works from 6 in the morning until 2:00 p.m. I sat down with my son and explained that he has to do something around the house and that he can't just hide in his room. I get that he's tired, but my daughter was extremely tired last week, but still she did her chores even though I told her to rest. Now, here's what I told my son. If you're not going to live here full time and not contribute to the house, you aren't getting the benefits you usually get. This means that he can park on the street, his shower times are limited to 10 minutes, he has to buy his own groceries, and he can wash his clothes here twice a month. My son yelled something about it being unfair and then left, and my daughter says it is fair as he hogs the shower for 45 minutes every single day, not to mention that he's always using the bathroom. My wife says we're pushing him away, but I think it's fair, and yes, I would do this if it was my daughter. So honestly, I need to know, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Honestly, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think you make a very solid point for your son needing to do something around the house, and I think that's something that is completely reasonable for you to ask of him. And I think you've got it right as well. He only lives there like what, part-time, maybe a few days out of the week, while also still not paying rent and having a place over his head. And I think it's awesome that you're willing to let him stay in your house and like figure out his life plan and all that other stuff, or at least save up money so he can have his own place eventually. But I don't think it's okay for him to basically come in and act like a ghost and then just run out of the house without doing anything to help the house. So no, I don't think you're the jerk. I think what you're asking is completely reasonable, and it sounds like your son needs to come to his senses. My entitled parents named me Anakin Skywalker, and now as a result, I'm getting bullied and made fun of by teachers and students in high school. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I get severely bullied at school, all because of the name my parents gave me. My parents are huge Star Wars fans, and when I was born, they decided to name me Anakin Skywalker. And no, I'm not joking, that is actually my name. My parents' last name isn't Skywalker, my dad's last name is Thompson, and my mom's last name is O'Connor. When they got married, they decided to hyphenate their last name, so their last name is Thompson O'Connor. However, when I was born, they gave me Anakin as my first name and Skywalker as my last name, and I don't even have a middle name. Because of this, I got bullied, and I still get bullied at my school. For it, I joined the school football team, and the players sometimes call me Annie, and they make fun of me saying, "Use the Force." When I get angry and tell them to stop, the coach will come and he will make fun of me too, saying, "Don't go all dark side with me now." And it's honestly so embarrassing. I have one friend who we will call Emma, that's not her real name, and she just calls me Anakin when we are alone. But when she introduces me to her friends outside of school or her siblings, she just calls me Sky to save me from the embarrassment. I told my parents, but they said the kids are just jealous. Now, I don't really hate my name. I mean, I do like it, and I actually like my last name Skywalker, but I get made fun of by the teachers and students, and I don't even like Star Wars. I find the movies boring. My parents would force me to watch them, and they were just so boring to me. I thought the last three with a female lead were more fun and adventurous, but that's about it. It was kind of weird seeing the character of Anakin on screen, all because we share the same name. But even then, I never really liked the character in the movies. He was annoying and kind of a jerk to everybody except his wife. I did like him in the animated show, but even then, he wasn't my favorite character. Because I don't like Star Wars all that much, and I don't really watch it, the students and teachers make corny Star Wars references that I don't get sometimes, because I'm not into it like that. And some students even call me Vader. I honestly just want to be called Anakin or Skywalker, and just be treated normally without being made fun of or people making dumb Star Wars jokes and references. I know I sound ungrateful, but I'm not. I do like my name, and I do like the character, kind of. I only like really the cartoon version, and I thought he was cooler as a supervillain. But even then, I just want to be treated normal, even though my name isn't normal and I don't hate my parents. I mean, I see where they're coming from. They love Star Wars and they love the character. And I love the show Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's my favorite show and I've watched it all the time since I was little. I'm super hyped for the Netflix live action show, and when I'm older, if I had a daughter, I could see myself wanting to name her after one of the female characters. And the same thing if I had a son. I like my name and I don't want to change it, but I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. I guess when I graduate, I'm going to just go with Sky because Annie sounds too much like a girl's name. And I can't go with Anna because that sounds like a girl's name too. I'm honestly at such a loss and I now seriously don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna put this in perspective for the original poster real quick and basically let them know that their parents are awful for doing this to you. Like, they knew what they were doing. Not only did they give you the name of somebody who's like the most famous villain in like movie history, but they also changed your last name. Like, that's insane to me. Why on earth would they do that to you? And it seems like you're taking it in stride and you're trying to make the best of it, but seriously, I can't imagine the bullying that you're going through. And it also is really disappointing that the teachers are mocking you instead of stopping the other kids from mocking you, because obviously this is bothering you. It's not something you want to deal with. Because seriously, who would want to deal with that? That's like naming your kid Harry Potter. Like, that would be horrifying. Are you kidding me right now? Or even worse, naming them Tom Riddle, which is the real name of Voldemort in the Harry Potter series. Like, that just sucks overall to have to deal with that literally for the rest of your life, and it is seriously not fair for you in the slightest. So hopefully things get better for you in the future because your parents set you up terribly, and it is not fair for you to deal with this level of scrutiny all over a name that you never even wanted. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My husband yelled at me and broke my belongings because he thinks I'm a narcissist. And right now I'm so confused because he has never acted like this, and it seriously leaves me unsure of what to do. Here's what happened. So my husband and I have been together for 6 years and married for 2, and in the past 6 months or so, he has had a vested interest in calling me vain, self-absorbed, conceited, or something similar to that. I have no idea why, and he just does it offhandedly, almost like he's making a joke, but a joke that definitely has some truth weaves into it. That being said, I will admit that I do enjoy nice things. I'm what you would call a girly girl, and I do take interest in my looks. I wear makeup and purchase new stuff a lot. I do my hair every single day. I wear nice clothing and skirts and dresses a lot. I spend my own money on my products and clothing, so that isn't the issue either. My husband will buy me jewelry and makeup that he knows that I would like, but I never ask and I always thank him. And no, I haven't changed. I've always been like this and he's never had a problem with it before. Anyway, so this happened about 3 days ago. My husband got home from work and I was in our bedroom organizing some of my stuff. He walked in and I could tell he was about to sit on our bed, so I told him, "Careful, my glasses are right there," because they were. And these are the glasses that I wear to see. He responds by rolling his eyes and asking why I'm so protective of my accessories. I responded back and I said I'm not. They're my literal seeing glasses, and rolled my eyes back. My husband then looked at me for a moment, stood up and went to my dresser. He pulled out my very expensive sunglasses and snapped one of the arms off of it. I stared at him with my mouth open, and he tossed the broken glasses into my lap and actually said to me, "Then you're not mad about that, right?" Now, I responded by yelling, and I know that I shouldn't have, but I asked him, "What is wrong with you?" Yes, I'm mad about that, and if he has a problem with me or the way I look or dress, he just needs to address it and stop being so passive-aggressive and rude. In response to that, my husband says, "Okay, I will." He went to the bathroom where I keep my everyday makeup, threw the entire little organization thing against the hallway wall, and slammed the door so hard the knob broke. When he was walking back towards me, I told him to get away from me while you're acting like a complete psychopath. Does makeup really make you that mad? Well, when I said that, he proceeds to yell at me, accusing me of wanting male attention, other people's attention, and wanting to leave him. I told him that's not true, and if he felt that way, he needs to address it like a normal person who can handle their emotions, which only made him more sad. He came up to me and forcefully rubbed the lipstick off of my lips, accusing me of wearing it for someone at my work. Now, I had just gotten home before him, so I was wearing my work clothes still. He also grabbed the end of my dress and yanked it up, proving how short it was, even though it wasn't. I pushed him away and I told him to not touch me. That's when he demanded that I prove that I didn't like my coworker. I said, "How in the world do I prove that?" And he said, "By being a good wife, and that I need to stop being such a narcissistic jerk." Well, that's when I turned around and left. I got my keys and I drove to my friend's house and just absolutely sobbed for hours. Of course, I immediately started to receive apology text messages and calls, but I just didn't answer. I went back when I knew he would usually be sleeping. That was Tuesday, and the next day was Valentine's Day, and of course, he was the perfect husband that day. We haven't talked about his outburst, but we've barely talked at all. I just don't know how to feel. He's never done this before. He's never acted like this. I mean, why is he acting like this? How do I even fix it? Nothing he said was true, but he was still so adamant. Is this even fixable? What should I do? I'm gonna say this as honestly as I can. I think your husband sounds incredibly dangerous. What starts off as him throwing things against the wall, as well as getting physically aggressive with you, eventually could lead to him getting violent. And that, in my opinion, should be the biggest red flag you've ever seen in your life. It also really seems like this guy is projecting his own insecurities and faults on you. Like all of a sudden, overnight, he's like, wow, you're such a narcissist. Prove to me that you don't like your coworker. You plan on leaving me, don't you? It's like, buddy, what in the world are you talking about? This guy's destroying your belongings, he broke a door, and he did physically get violent with you. And even though he just grabbed you and it wasn't like him hitting you or anything like that, in my opinion, that is still not okay, and he absolutely should not have done that. So in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would be taking a good hard look at all that's been going on, because what you described sounds very scary. And I know if I were you, I definitely would not take this lightly. An entitled solicitor walks directly into my grandparents' house as he's trying to pawn off and sell his overpriced oil change to my grandparents. And I've honestly never been more annoyed or astonished by somebody's entitlement, as well as how rude they could possibly be in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so some dude that we will call Chad, because I don't know their actual real name, was trying to promote his auto shop and other stuff. And so I'm in my grandparents' house and I answer the door, and this guy starts talking about his auto shop all in French until I tell him I don't speak French. After poorly explaining why he's there, Chad then sees my grandparents and starts talking to them afterwards in French again. So it's really difficult to even understand what he's saying. He then asks if he can come inside the house. I go to say no, but he doesn't even wait for an answer and just kind of walks in but stays at the door. So how the house is set up, the second you walk in, there are like 5 steps going into the house, both up and down. As Chad continues talking to my grandparents, he starts walking up the stairs further into the house. At this point, he accidentally hits me as he walks by and tells me to move instead of apologizing for hitting me. I'm obviously upset, but my grandparents are able to get him to leave along with his $200 oil change. Like, I took a mechanics class and it should not be that expensive, even if synthetic oil is used. Even without the class, you can find that out with a Google search. So later in the day at around 7:00 p.m., this guy came back. This time my aunt answers the door, but where I'm sitting in the house, you can clearly see me. So he calls out and he's like, yo, where's your dad? He only met my grandfather, so I'm assuming that's what he meant. I then go up to the door and I tell him to leave. I had to say the words go and leave about 15 times before he even started stepping away. And he only started stepping away as my aunt started closing the door, so I doubt my words actually spurred him to go. I even had to pull out the card of saying that I've taken mechanics classes and I can do my own oil change. And as Chad's leaving, he says, I swear I'm a nice guy. Like, who says that? I mean, this is not how solicitors should act. Like, people already don't like solicitors. You're making it worse, you know. It's also weird to me that he remembers the house and the people inside. And I should have just said that I will call the police. But now I'm upset and I wish I'd done something more instead of just standing idly the first time he came around. I'm just worried because what if he comes back again? Like, he's actually scaring me, because why would he come back at 7:00 in the first place? Like, it's dark outside. I'm also tempted to write a strongly worded letter with a company that he works for, but at this point, I'm not even sure if he actually is a salesman or if he's just a scammer. So at this point, I'm so annoyed and I now seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, it really seems like this guy was an absolute scammer. Like, think about it. This guy came back when it's almost dark out, looking for your grandparents again. Like, that is so sketchy. It's not even funny. And this guy was trying to sell a $200 oil change. Like, that is nuts to me. There's no reason that should cost that much, and seriously, that absolutely is a scam. And it really does seem like he was targeting elderly people just so he could get some like quick cash out of them, and that is really not okay. So in my opinion, I would warn your family and lock the doors, because this Chad guy is seriously up to no good. My entitled 75-year-old roommate filed a restraining order against me, claiming that I stole his personal property as well as made threats against him in the process. And I'm now at a point where I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so this is going to be a long one, and I would appreciate all the help that I could get. I got a restraining order on me under false pretenses from my landlord/roommate. He accused me of stealing money, jewelry, and his 2006 tax returns, and he filed a police report and a no contact order on me despite no evidence. He also claimed he felt threatened threatened and unsafe in his own home and had to put a lock on his door. For reference, I'm an 18-year-old male, and I moved into a place in January of this year with an older 75-year-old gentleman. Within 2 weeks, we had a garage sale that lasted 3 days, and during the garage sale, we had people in the garage and inside the home, where we had racks of clothing and in the garage. I would say we had over 200 people come over 3 days, and during the first day, I sold about $1,200 worth of items, and at the end of the day, I counted it in front of him, he gave me my cut, and he took the money. The next day, we sold around $600, and then he claimed he lost $200 from the first day and $300 from the second day. On Sunday, he confronted me about it by saying, "I don't care if you took it because you can't pay rent, but just be honest." Well, I denied all the claims, and I told him I don't need his money, nor his $500. It's not worth the risk of ruining a great living situation. And I have $5,000 sitting in cash in my room right now. Then he claimed he was missing jewelry. Now, keep in mind, when I lived with him, he locked his keys in his car twice in the span of 3 weeks and couldn't remember many things. After the garage sale, we continued living together very cordially, watching football together, making dinner, and having conversations. There was no hostility or violence in the house ever. But one day after that, he said he saw a tax return outside on the driveway, and when he got back home, it was gone. He was worried that someone was gonna try and take his identification, and I tried soothing him so he calmed down. Well, on the 2nd of February, he got home and told me he filed a police report for all the jewelry and money he lost because he has home insurance. But little did I know that he filed it all on me. We continued living great together all the way up until February 14th. We even watched the Super Bowl together. But on the 14th, I was in my room when a cop opens my door and stated that I needed to pack some bags and leave based on the no contact order. Now, I did so with no issue, and the night after, I then received a lease termination based on accusations of theft and me threatening the old guy. The deadbolt on his door was installed before I toured the place, and I have an eyewitness to that. So that leaves me with some questions. I am already planning on appealing the protective order, and I feel I have substantial proof to get it thrown out. But where do I take it next? Do I countersue as well? He owes me about $1,800 for the last month, which is prorated rent for February and my deposit, which he states I won't receive based on damages done. I mean, I lived in the house for less than a month and didn't damage a thing. I don't know if I should start looking for a lawyer and getting consultations or if a public defender will suffice, but I'm honestly at such a loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, I really think you should probably get a lawyer. This sounds like a messy legal situation, and it sounds like you're gonna end up in some kind of courtroom pretty much regardless. But what I can say is that your roommate is absolutely awful. He clearly is lying or making this up in some kind of way, or he's trying to justify him losing his property by blaming it on you. And he feels he can probably get away with it because you're a teenager. Sure, you're 18 and you're considered an adult in the United States, but I remember what I was like when I was 18 years old, and trust me, I did not understand the world in the slightest. And that's not because of my own fault, but rather just from a lack of experience. And I bet you this guy is trying to use that against you and use your lack of experience in the world to try and get one over on you and get this claim back through his home insurance. So if I was in your shoes, I would definitely look for a lawyer that can help you out, because this guy not only owes you money, but he's also falsely accusing you of something that you did not do. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would definitely not take that for a second. An entitled Karen at Planet Fitness tries to get me in trouble, claiming that I'm hovering over her as she's working out and that I was being intrusive the entire time she was working. But thankfully, the gym staff as well as another witness close by saw the entire thing, and they vouched for me well above what the Karen could possibly say. Here's what happened. So I just encountered a wild Karen from Planet Fitness. Two things to keep in mind about me. I'm 6'1", about 2 meters tall, and I weigh about 240 pounds. This is relevant because I've dealt with many people like this who think they can get me in trouble because I'm a larger male, with them just trying to play the victim card. I was down to my last exercise on one of the machines, and there was a middle-aged blonde woman using it, so I stood about 8 feet away. I did not even look in her direction. I was listening to music on my earbuds, watching one of the many TVs while glancing back at my phone here and there. About 5 minutes into it, she turns to me. I take my headphones out and she asks me if I'm waiting for the machine. I say yes, and then I look back at my phone. This Karen says, "Well, I'm gonna be a while." So I respond by saying, "No rush, take your time." She then gets up and waves her hand in my face. She says to me, "Can you not stand over me?" I look at her and I say, "I am not standing anywhere near you. I'm patiently waiting for the machine." I even made sure my body wasn't facing her in an aggressive manner. At this time, there was an older older woman who just sat down at the next machine over, and she said, "Don't worry, honey, you can come stand over me." We both laughed and I moved about 2 feet over to her and away from the Karen. The Karen starts to mutter insults to herself, but I don't really care and I go back to my music. About 10 minutes later, she dramatically gets up and yells at me. She says, "You can jump on it now." And she says this as she marches towards the front desk. I reply to her by saying, "Don't worry, I'll wipe it down and clean it for you," because of course she didn't do it. I get my sets in and then I walk up to the front desk, asking them what she said about me. One of them replies by saying, "You? She was talking about you?" The second person at the desk says that I'm the nicest person in here. I come in, I do my work, and I never bother anybody. They compliment me again by saying I'm the sweetest guy and I'm always polite, that they've had problems with this Karen in the past, and that I don't have anything to worry about. While the three of us are chatting and laughing, I glance across the gym at Karen and I see that she is giving me the death glare. Then this other guy walks up to me and tells the two staff members that he saw the whole thing, that the woman is something else, and that I was nothing but polite to her and she was being belligerent. He then looks at me and says that I handled that a lot better than he would have. Now, this ending might not be as satisfying as you might want it to be, but it's a huge win for me, and I just had to share it online. These situations don't always work out in my favor, and I'm just thankful it did, and that this Karen had to sit there getting more angry and more miserable. Yeah, you know for a fact that Karen was trying to pull one over on you. She definitely wanted to get you in trouble in some kind of way, and that's all because you were standing, what, 8 feet away? Like seriously, you're off to the side, minding your own business, and you're even facing away from her. Like this lady was clearly just trying to cause problems. And it really just doesn't make sense because you literally said nothing to her. And that's the part about this that bothers me the most. It's like she saw this big guy standing there and she made this wild assumption that you're like standing and hovering over her. But it's like, really? He's standing across the room. He is literally not even bothering you. It's also really nice that the gym staff had your back, because this very easily could have been a different story if they didn't know who you were. Not to mention the other guy who saw the entire thing. So good for you for keeping your cool and handling this so well, because that Karen was looking for a fight, and it's really nice that you decided not to give it to her. My entitled manager tries to boss and bully me around, all because he saw me as a difficult employee, despite the fact that I have customer service awards, as well as high praise from my previous managers. So I decide to get revenge by exposing him for the awful manager that he is, resulting in several people from my company resigning with me en masse, and I've never felt better about getting back at anybody in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so for a bit of background, I've worked at my current job for over 3 years, and for most of that time, it has been a small team that is very collaborative, good at listening, and mission-focused. Most of this time, I've had a manager by the name of Dylan that is very supportive, listens, and doesn't micromanage, and I've even been applauded and received multiple awards from our customer and directors. And cut to last year in the fall, and we had a huge turnover in management, and in the preceding reorganization, I was moved to be under a different guy by the name of Rick, who is ex-military and is very used to simple "sir, yes, sir" responses. He's targeted me and several other employees who voice our opinions in the spirit of improving the overall organization, not just to be difficult or insubordinate. Rick is also super incompetent and poor at time management, and I have to do all of the planning and management for our team and even complete some of his tasks just to keep our organization afloat. Well, last month was evaluation time, and I emailed Rick asking him to involve Dylan in my performance review, since Rick was only my boss for 1 month out of the performance period. Rick refused and wrote me a scathing review that wasn't evidence-based at all. I had sent him multiple references like kudos from the customers and performance awards, and he ensured that I got no raise this year. I complained to HR, and they decided that it needed to be redone with Dylan's involvement. The same day that HR notified everyone of the new plan, Rick came up to me and told me to be careful of how I charge my time, since he noticed I'm away from my desk a lot. And as a side note for context, my job involves collaborating with engineers and engaging with a customer. The next day, he asked me for a list of my current tasks and priorities, as well as deadlines and detailed descriptions of how I perform certain jobs. I went to HR with this information and said it looks suspiciously like retaliation, and they are building a case for firing me. A few days later, I received a written warning for a perceived offense last year, even though there was no real proof from them that I didn't do my job. The timing of everything is very suspicious, and I know that Rick has been investigated and confirmed for creating a hostile work environment for another employee who ended up being relocated to another department to avoid a lawsuit. Fast forward, and I had an interview last week, and I accepted a job offer on Monday. I promptly sent out out my notice on Tuesday as my last day, and this is 1 week from a major new system launch. The real kicker here is that I sent out the resignation to the entire company with details about how I was targeted and retaliated against and how I know I'm not alone in receiving this treatment. I've already heard from multiple coworkers encouraged by my message that were too depressed and stuck to leave that are now looking for other opportunities and have confirmed that leadership is already having a meltdown. Rick is also being exposed as being completely incompetent, and I was the only other person on his team. The expert staff is about to leave en masse and leave the incompetent leadership to deal with the fallout. I also filled out an exit interview form with even more detail about the situation that will get forwarded from HR up to the directors to see why people are leaving. And honestly, I've never felt better about getting back at somebody in my life. Yeah, Rick was 100% trying to get back at you and was very clearly trying to retaliate for some stupid reason. Like, this guy does not know your work ethic at all. He's just some incompetent manager who's trying to bully you around and get you in trouble for literally no reason. And he's probably only doing this because you're asking questions instead of just walking away and doing exactly as you're told. But how is anybody supposed to get anything done if you're not able to ask questions at work? That sounds really counterintuitive and not like a healthy work environment at all. So good for you for getting back at this manager, because clearly Rick absolutely had it out for you. And I bet if you did decide to stick around, he would only try and find another reason to have you fired. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled mother ruins my wedding day as she shows up completely intoxicated and eventually storms out of my wedding when I refuse to make the wedding all about her. And now I'm feeling really bad and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I've been having a really hard time since my wedding the other day. This is kind of a long one, so bear with me. So the morning of my wedding started off good with my mom. She was all fine and dandy, enjoying her morning at the hotel. She told me that she made an appointment at her hotel to get her hair done at 12:30. Now, I told her my hair and makeup lady would be at my Airbnb at 12 o'clock to help me get ready. Then she started freaking out because she wanted to be there when I was getting ready, but she insisted that she needed to get her hair done. So I told her to either cancel her appointment and come and get ready at the Airbnb, or meet me my Airbnb at 2 o'clock before we leave for the wedding, or meet me at the chapel at 3 o'clock. She started freaking out on me because she wasn't going to be there for me when I was getting ready. To me, it wasn't even a big deal because everyone was in their own rooms getting ready anyways. She's yelling at me on the phone, telling me how much money she's wasting by being at the hotel and saying that she should be staying at my Airbnb, which, mind you, the only people at the Airbnb were the bridal party, namely me, my husband, his groomsmen, and my bridesmaids. So it wouldn't make sense for her to be there as well. So eventually I get to the chapel and my mom shows up completely drunk. She is saying the most ridiculous things to people and just making a fool out of herself. Meanwhile, I'm basically in a fever dream of excitement, taking pictures with our family before the ceremony. We walk into the chapel and everyone is supposed to go in and sit down so we can start, but she proceeds to dig through a bag to try and give me a gift. I told her I would check it out afterwards because everyone is already in the chapel sitting down. Then she freaks out on me again because I don't want to look at her gifts right then and there. Eventually, the ceremony is over and my now husband and I are so happy, and our photographer takes us to go and take more pictures around the chapel. Eventually, we finish taking pictures and I get back on the party bus to head to the after party, and my mom is not there. I asked my sister what happened, and she said my mom freaked out and took an Uber back to her hotel and left before the after party. The next day comes around and my mom proceeds to text me the worst things I've ever read in my life, basically saying that I embarrassed her and how I'm not her daughter anymore and how my husband is a jerk and that I have a new family and I don't need her, while also saying that she's a bad mother. I literally don't even know where any of that came from, as I was literally busy getting married and barely paid attention to anyone besides my soon-to-be husband in the moment. All I know is that she showed up drunk to my wedding, freaked out, and left, and is now trying to turn it all around on me. I've been feeling awful since then because I wanted my mom to be there to enjoy the day with me, and she had to go and just ruin it. Regardless, I had an amazing day, but it still sucks, and now I feel like I did something wrong even though I know I didn't. No, you definitely did not do anything wrong. You were just trying to have the wedding that you had been looking forward to, but your mom decided to literally make it all about her. She literally ruined that day by being so entitled and spoiled, and that is really not fair for you in the slightest. slightest. You did not deserve that, but also it is definitely not your fault. So I think it would be foolish to try and blame yourself at all. Your mom clearly wanted to take away the spotlight from you, and she wanted to try and make this all about her in some kind of weird way. I mean, she showed up drunk and tried to give you a gift before you got married. It's like, what are you doing? I've got to get married first. This really can't wait until the after party. So if I was in your shoes, I would just ignore her completely. She is clearly looking for attention and projecting all of her negative feelings on you, and you do not deserve her entitled attitude in the slightest. An entitled Karen screams at me after I give a homeless guy some money, claiming that I was helping him purchase his illegal substances, and as repayment to society, I was now required to pay for her gas at her pump. So I decided to get some petty revenge in a way that this Karen would never forget. Here's what happened. So we have our fair share of homeless people in my town, and it's a lot of the usual that you might expect, like the ones at the end of exit ramps with signs or at the lights of highways. Usually I don't give anything because realistically, usually you don't have anything to give in the first place. But yesterday I had a decent day and I actually found myself with a couple of bucks on hand. I see one particular man at a freeway light often, and I know some of his story. He does use any money collected to purchase food, as well as something to drink but not alcohol, and will accept items graciously, not just cash. So I pull up to the light, wave him over, and hand him the $4 that I had. He thanks me and happens to walk across the intersection to the same gas station that I was heading to in the first place. I go in to get some gas, and he grabs some hot food and a cheap fountain drink. So you might be wondering, all was good, right? Well, no, of course it wasn't. In comes the entitled Karen of the story. She had the typical look and everything. Big sunglasses, the haircut, yoga pants, I mean, you name it. She immediately storms over to the register and demands a manager. I'm only mildly paying attention because I just need to get gas. Well, the manager comes forward, and this woman points that ugly orange and red long nail at me and starts to raise her voice. She says, "I need police here right now. That woman gave that addict some money outside of your establishment," as well as a slew of other really random and ever-growing nonsense. At this point, the three other customers, namely me, the man I helped out, and now a very interested customer, are all staring at this Karen. The manager looks so confused, so I chimed in. I said, "Regardless, that isn't her business. I gave the guy a few bucks across the street, and he's buying food with it." The manager's okay with this, but the Karen is not happy. She starts screaming that obviously the station is a front for illegal activity, as well as illegal substances, as well as all this other crazy stuff. At this point, I've completely lost interest. The man buys his food and walks out, and I get to the register and I ask for gas. Now, you would think that the Karen would be done at this point, but unfortunately, of course she wasn't. She demands that if I'm going to pay for his substances, then I need to buy her gas. She tells the cashier and manager to put, I think, about $40 on the pump where she was at, and it was all going to be on my dime, and then she storms out. And at this point, we all just blink. I chuckled a bit and I told them how much gas I needed, and I was just going to ignore it, but I'm feeling petty, so I put $1 on her pump. Her screaming when the pump stopped at $1 was beautiful, so I got my gas and I left. All the while, she was storming back into the station, and that was honestly the best dollar I've ever wasted in my life. That is seriously the funniest form of petty revenge I've ever heard in a while. Like, first of all, what was this lady's problem? She was seriously freaking out because you gave somebody else money? Like, is she being serious right now? It is not that big of a deal. Like, what you do with what, $4 is your business and yours alone. And it's also really disturbing that she would automatically be like, "Oh yeah, that guy's going after illegal substances." When it's like, lady, that guy's homeless. He's getting food. She could literally see exactly what he was using the money for. And it's honestly so disappointing that there are actually people like this who see a homeless person and only think that they're doing illegal substances of some kind. And sure, that stereotype in a lot of cases is true, but there are some people who are just down on their luck. And for this guy, it really does seem like the case. So honestly, good for the original poster for putting this Karen in her place, because I really think that's a lesson she's not going to forget anytime soon. An entitled landlord tries to trick me into renting their apartment as they failed to disclose that I would be next to a neighbor who was an absolute nightmare to deal with. And I've honestly never been more offended or bullied by somebody in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so after apartment searching for several months, I finally found a place that looked reasonable. Currently, I've been living with my elderly dad, caretaking for him as he has some mobility issues and some health issues. I've been doing so for the last year. Prior to that, I was living in an apartment and basically put my life on hold to help him out. My mom passed away several years ago unexpectedly, and since then, I've tried to help my my dad, even though at times he can have some narcissism, which has added to the difficulty of me caretaking and living with him. It's not all the times, but it is sometimes. I had been apartment searching for months, and I had very little luck. It seems like everything was either extremely expensive in my area, or too far distance-wise, or it just didn't look great. Or on the flip side, no one got back to me with my original inquiry. Finally, I found a place that was only 20 minutes away from my dad, in a town that I do like, right on the beach for a reasonable price. It was a studio apartment, so it was relatively small in size, but it definitely seemed doable. When I went to go see it the first time, the current tenant was the one to show it to me. She seemed really nice and said it's a good apartment and that she's going to be living with her mom for the time being, and then in the summer she's going to be moving to Arizona. When we were walking out, I saw that there were papers on the neighbor's door, and she mentioned they are being evicted. I didn't feel comfortable asking follow-up questions or prying, which in retrospect I definitely should have. So I decided that I wanted to take the apartment. I speak to the landlord, who lives in a different state, via phone call, and she tells me about the paperwork application I will need to fill out and that everything looks good. Her sister works in the office downstairs and handles a lot of paperwork, so I met her as well. I had asked her for a copy of the lease just so I could look it over prior to putting down a deposit. I do so, and I notice one of the things on the deposit was very unusual. It mentioned repairs in the building, but that the tenant would be responsible for $50 of the repair, even if it were part of the building and not something that they caused. I was very confused by the wording, and I asked her to elaborate on that, and she did so. I then told her I'm very interested and I would like to take a final walkthrough and bring my non-refundable holding deposit at that point if everything seemingly looks good, which I ended up doing so at that point. Everything about the apartment looked good and reasonable. I put down the holding deposit, which is the amount of the rent, and she gives me a copy of the lease that I then have to get notarized, which I found it to be unusual, and I also found it unusual that the holding deposit and the security deposit she wanted in cash only. She said rent going forward could be in check form, but that she wanted those in cash. Well, fast forward, and I go back today, and I bring the lease signed and notarized, as well as the security deposit in cash. I meet with the sister of the landlord in the office, and after she signs the documents and takes the money from me, we start having a conversation, and she's telling me about the area and the building in general. She then gets on about the layout of the neighbors, detailing exactly where everybody lives. I tell her that it's okay if she doesn't feel comfortable sharing, but I'm just curious about the person being evicted. Well, she then goes on a 20-minute conversation about how that woman has been a complete nightmare, how she was diagnosed with Huntington's disease, and apparently that's why the current tenant is moving out, and other tenants have had a huge noise issue with her. She blasts music constantly. She's rude when they asked her to turn it down. She vacuums for 3 hours, banging her vacuum into the wall, especially when people have work meetings when they work from home. And after hearing this, I was extremely concerned. I tell her thank you for her time, and then I go to my car and I call my dad. I burst into tears because I felt so uncomfortable with finding out this information, especially after signing the lease and putting down the money. He tells me that I should go back in and ask her why that wasn't disclosed to me prior to signing anything. So I go back in and I say just that to the sister, and she says to me in response that the current tenant did tell me, but I tell her that I knew of the person being evicted, but I had no clue as to why, and I'm very uncomfortable with this information. She then calls her sister, the landlord, and puts me on the phone with her. The landlord then basically verbally attacks me, turning things around on me, saying that I have been wishy-washy the entire time, that I'm going to regret this, that it's a cute apartment and by the ocean, and that she has never in her 52 years of doing this had someone be so wishy-washy. Now, I feel very uncomfortable because I have a passive personality, which she probably knew she could take advantage of, and I asked her how I've been wishy-washy at all. She said because I wanted clarification of the lease and to see the apartment for a second time. Now, when she said that, I still felt incredibly uncomfortable with this scenario. She was still trying to push me to keep and take the apartment at that point, even though I tried to explain to her that I have had a really bad neighbor scenario before, and it was an absolute nightmare for me living in that. She tried to tell me that this would not be an issue, in that they were already evicting the person, and the person might even be out by the time I move in next month. I told her that I knew sometimes evictions could take months or even up to a year, and I can't be in that kind of scenario. Well, long story short, I pretty much burst into tears after getting off the phone with her, even though I was still in front of her sister. I left, I told my dad what happened, and he told me to give him her number so he could give her a call back and speak about the deposit deposit and getting it back. He did so, and she lied, saying that I knew about this when I first saw the apartment, which is obviously untrue. It sounds like if she's going to have to be able to have a backup tenant and rent it right away, that she will get the money back, otherwise it might be an issue. I'm extremely on edge, and I'm very uncomfortable about this entire thing. I've never been spoken to like that in my life, and I'm also extremely disappointed about not getting this apartment after searching for months. I felt like going into it though might be the wrong decision if I pretty much have confirmation that this neighbor has been a living nightmare for literally anybody who lives there. On the other hand, I obviously understand why the current tenant is trying to break her lease, because they wouldn't even tell me the details of why the eviction is happening in the first place. It's just very upsetting that I was about to move into a scenario that seems like it was a very difficult living situation for reasons outside of the apartment. I mean, I really felt like I was being bullied, and I was so shocked because this landlord's attitude just changed 180 from the previous time I'd spoken to her, and it's honestly just so jarring. And it's also one of those situations where I wonder if it was too good to be true. And you know what? Maybe it is. This place was right on the beach, and it just seemed like a really low price, and obviously and unfortunately, I now know that there was clearly a catch. Yeah, that landlord tried to muscle you into that apartment, and that is honestly so crazy to me. Like, I've learned in customer service or in other situations in life, whenever somebody gets really pushy and aggressive and like angry with you, especially over a decision that involves money or something like that, usually it means that they're trying to like get something out of you, or they have some kind of angle that they're trying to play against you. And the entitled Karen landlord of this story absolutely fits the bill. I mean, you are definitely not the first person to see that eviction notice on your neighbor's door and then think to yourself, okay, maybe this is not for me. Because that landlord turned on a dime and was like, no, this is your fault. You've been wishy-washy. And it's like, what do you even mean by wishy-washy? That literally doesn't even make any sense. And also, why would I not want to be very careful about the place I live in? Because this is a perfect example of what could happen. They advertise this low price, it's right next to the beach, so they're clearly trying to like pull people in to make sure they get with this property. But in reality, it's all a ruse. It's all a disguise so that they can get this apartment under somebody so that they can start making money off of it despite this awful neighbor. And the original poster had it right as well. This eviction process sometimes goes on forever. Like, that's never an easy process, and there's a good chance she might just stay there and be like, nope, I'm not gonna leave. Then the police are involved and all this other garbage is just gonna add up. Like, seriously, that sounds like an absolute abysmal nightmare. So seriously, good for you for not moving into that place, as well as having your dad to back you up when you felt overwhelmed, because having someone like that to help you out in this scenario clearly made all the difference in the world. An entitled Karen screams at me and gets physical with me after I refused to allow her son to take my phone and use it as entertainment. But I decided I was not going to take her attitude for a second, as I talked back by insulting her and telling her that she's a terrible mother. But now I'm wondering if I'm the jerk for the way that I reacted, because at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So for a bit of background, I'm a 27-year-old Dutch woman who is currently 5 months pregnant and has a wife. My wife and I were at an airport waiting for our flight, which was in a few hours, when my wife goes to get something to eat. I asked her if she could get me something, and then she went her way. As I was sitting there, I was reading on my phone when this kid comes up to me and says, "Ma'am, could I play on your phone?" I say to them, "I'm sorry, but no." The kid says okay and walks to his mother's seat about 20 feet away from me, and he tells her what I said. And this is the entitled Karen of this story. This Karen then gets up and walks over to me and says to me, "You need to let my son play on your phone." I then said to her, "Why should I? It's my property, not yours or his." The Karen makes a frustrated noise and then walks back to her seat. My wife comes back with some fruit for me, and I grab some and I started eating. After a few hours, our plane was here and we got on, and guess what? The entitled Karen was sitting literally right beside me. She says to her son, "Don't mess with the stuff." Now I hear this, but I shrug it off, as she is just being a Karen. Then she tells her son a few other things, but I couldn't hear as I was now listening to some music. The kid sits to my right and the Karen to the right of him. Once we take off, the kid asked his mom something, and she gives him a short and quiet response. The kid starts rubbing his arms against my arm and even tried to poke my stomach a bit, but I looked at him and he stopped. He then looked at me and said, "How did you get pregnant if you're married to a girl?" And when he said that, I just put my headphones back in and ignored him, and I continued reading on my phone. The kid then continues bugging me, and eventually he picks his nose and tries to wipe it on me, but I grabbed his hand and I rub it on his arm instead, and he tells his mom. The kid and his mom swap swap seats, and the Karen grabs my hair and yanks at it. Then I pull out an earbud, put my phone down, and grab her wrist as hard as I can. She yells at me, "Why did you touch my baby?" I respond by squeezing her wrist so that she would let go of my hair. I say to her, "He was about to put his snot on my arm." The Karen released my hair and tried to smack my stomach, but my wife chimed in and said, "Hey, look, just get your kid to stop messing with my wife." The Karen then called her a racist name, and then she looks at me and calls me another name aimed at lesbians, and I respond by saying that you're a piece of garbage and a terrible parent. After that, she asked to move seats with another guy, but in the end, me and my wife had no more problems on our trip. So honestly, I need to know, am I the jerk for yelling at this Karen when she was being obnoxious? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think her demeanor and the way she was acting was completely out of line. Like she was allowing her kid to basically bother you nonstop, as well as try to wipe his snot all over your arm. Like seriously, that is unbelievably disgusting. There is no good excuse for that, and honestly, you hit the nail on the head. This lady is a terrible parent. It's also crazy to me at how entitled this lady truly was. Like she was really trying to get you to give up your property to her son, as if you're supposed to just give it away without any kind of problem. Like you don't know these people at all. They are literally the definition of strangers, and there's no way if I was in your shoes, I would ever give up my phone. So no, I don't think you're the jerk. I think this entitled Karen was being a bully, and she had no right to talk to you or your wife like that in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My boyfriend is constantly getting direction and instruction from his mother, as she literally controls every aspect of his life and refuses to not be involved in our relationship. But at this point, I'm seriously considering breaking up with him, and I'm at a point where I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I've been in a long-distance relationship with my boyfriend for 4 years. I'm 23 years old and he is 25. He is my best friend and I truly love him. I know that by even asking this, I probably already know my answer, but I am having a tough time accepting it. Should I end my relationship or continue it and allow my boyfriend to move to my state with his family? He is planning on moving here in April with his family, and I don't have much time left to make a decision. I am feeling lots of doubt despite my feelings for him. I am concerned about his mom. I have so many long stories I could share, but I really will try to keep it short. I have noticed so many red flags, but because we are in such a long distance relationship, I can forgive them once I get home and I'm away from her. Since I only visit for a week about every other month, I feel I do not even know half of what is to come in the future if I marry into this family. For the short periods of time that I have been in person with his family, I always have several experiences that cause me to feel doubt, but everything else about him is so amazing to me that I can forgive them once I am home. Soon, that will not be the case if they move to my state. He originally was going to move here on his own, but without speaking to me about it, planned for his family to come as well. This did not initially upset me so much at first, because I assumed his family would probably follow eventually. He is an only child, and up until now, I had not thought a lot about what it would be like for them to be here too. I only imagined him. I get along with his mom because I'm a meek person. She is extremely hot-headed, she's pushy and overbearing. I do not enjoy being around her, and she makes me feel exhausted. There have been many things she has said to me that have been left-handed comments, but I've ignored them and always remained respectful to her. I don't like confrontation, but she's one of those people where if you have a problem with her, you need to say it to her face. We are really close right now, but I genuinely believe that if I had just a little more of a backbone, she would completely hate me. I know that makes me sound so insincere, but I just want to build a good relationship with her. She cannot take no for an answer, and I am so bad at saying no. I will say no to her a million times, and she just doesn't give up. She will just do what she wants. Now, my boyfriend and his mom are extremely close. His biological father left when he was around 3 years old, and his mom remarried when he was 5. His stepdad is like a real father to him, and they get along very well. His dad and mom have a healthy relationship, and that makes me really happy. His mom has pulled me aside multiple times throughout my visits, just to tell me that her son is number one in her life, even before her husband. She pulls me aside very often to make comments just like that. She also often texts me about how sweet and amazing he is. He lives with his parents right now because he wants to save up to move in with me. He has lived apart from his parents for 2 years in the past in an apartment that was less than 5 minutes away from their house. When he moved out, his mom cried uncontrollably for days. His mom and dad both constantly dote on him. When I I'm visiting, they knock on his door several times a day just to talk to us, and when I'm not there, they enter his room constantly without knocking, even when we're on a phone call together. It is more his mom than his dad, but it can be his dad sometimes. His mom will enter his room and sit on his bed and just listen to our conversation. She will complain that he does not spend time with her or eat with her anymore, and since I'm not there in person, he and his mom will go out one-on-one together several times a week for meals. Now, this does not bother me because I also like spending time with my mom, but for her to whine about him not doing it enough is really concerning to me because to me, it is more than enough already. Additionally to this, she is constantly texting and calling him while we are together. I only get to see him in person every so often, so it makes me sad when she calls him and they talk on the phone for a while when they live together and get to see each other all the time. He tells her everything that we do each day, all of our plans, and sends pictures of our food, and their messages are filled with heart emojis. This did not bother me initially because I'm glad he has a good relationship with her, but since then, so much has built up and caused me more concern for how involved she is in his life. I do not know how much he texts her when I'm not there, but she calls him every day that he drives to work. She has also convinced him that he is 6 feet tall and repeatedly comments on how tall he is. Now, I don't want to burst his bubble because he genuinely believes that he is that tall, but he is probably more like 5'9" at most. Now, I don't care how tall he is perfect to me, but it's strange how his mom romanticizes his height. Every time I visit, at least once, she rubs his arms and goes on and on about how amazing and big his muscles are. She snuggles up against him when we are on the couch, and they always hug when we leave them to go to bed. And hey, maybe this is normal. At least my parents are not very physically affectionate at all. I will say though that he is independent. He works hard and can cook, he can clean and do errands for himself. His mom does currently do his laundry and help with the cleaning and cooking sometimes, but he does help out, and I know he is capable of doing these chores on his own if she wasn't around. For the majority of our relationship, every time I would visit, we would eat just about every dinner with his parents, take his mom out for lunch at least once, and spend the evening watching movies or just talking to them. If we did something alone, when we got back home, he would knock on their bedroom door and go into their room to talk to them for at least 30 minutes. Now, I know that doesn't sound long, but that time adds up when you only see your partner for a bit every few months. When he visits me, we sometimes do not eat a single meal with my family at all because I want to spend as much alone time with him as possible. If I said anything about not wanting to spend so much time with his parents, he would get sad and tell me they miss me as much as he misses me when I am gone. We have gone on several trips out of town with his family where we would spend every waking moment with them. For our 3-year anniversary, we went on a 7-day cruise with his parents, and after about 2 days, I asked him if we could just do one thing together alone without them. He reluctantly agreed, and we planned to go get a late-night snack. When the time finally came, his mom asked if she could join us because her husband went to gamble that night. My boyfriend said yes, and I was visibly annoyed, which then caused him to be annoyed with me. He told me that my behavior was unbelievable, and after we ate with his mom and parted ways with her, I expressed my annoyance to my boyfriend. He then threw a fit and stormed off to sit somewhere on his own, and for the rest of the trip, he gave me the cold shoulder. And let me tell you something, I could not wait to get off that boat and just go home. We had a serious talk after this, and since then, we spent a good bit less time with them during my visits. Now, if I am there for a week, we usually only spend about 2 to 3 dinners with them, but still spend a lot of time in their room or his room talking. Since we have decreased the time we spend with them, his mother has increasingly gotten more passive-aggressive towards me. She makes left-handed comments about my appearance and qualities, and then she tells me that you can get away with saying anything if you say it with a smile. They are too minor to truly address or complain about, but it makes me feel insecure. My greatest concern, though, came during my most recent visit. It truly gave me a reality check. We went out to dinner with his parents, and his mom tells me that we need to have a serious talk. I assume it's about them moving to my state, and they want to make sure that I'm truly serious about being with their son, but instead, they brought up my older brother. My older brother, for reference, has extreme social anxiety and sometimes does not properly greet my boyfriend when he visits. I am not close with my older brother, and I don't spend much time with him, but I warned my brother about him before meeting him because my brother is rude to everyone and has acted the same to all of my past boyfriends. My boyfriend has taken it extremely personally and brings it up quite a bit. I have spoken to my brother in private about his behavior and hear out my boyfriend when he complains because I agree with him. My brother brother can be very rude. If I explain that it's because he is shy, my boyfriend says I'm giving my brother excuses and that my parents did not raise him right. Well, at the dinner, his parents say that they are extremely concerned with my brother and how he treats my boyfriend. Now, I am a little shocked because I did not see it as a big deal since my brother is not a big part of my life at all. This conversation went on for a long time where they bashed my brother and the way my parents raised him. They said if my brother was rude when they were around, they would address it immediately and ask what his problem is. I think I must have been visibly scared because his dad began emphasizing that they did not hate my brother, but they were just concerned as parents. My brother really has not done anything that bad to my boyfriend other than not greet him when he visits. They acted like my brother was going to be the biggest bully and they had to stand up for their son. I just feel like he is too old to have his parents so defensive as well as being worried about something like this. I also feel like this will just start a huge fight between our families if they make a big scene about my brother. His mom tells me that I need to stand up for my boyfriend no matter what because at the end of the day, he is all I will have left when my parents pass away. I feel slightly wrong because I have spoken to my brother about his behavior a few times, and so has my mom and other family members. I may not have stood up to him directly at the moment, but I am not comfortable around him, so it is hard. Once the conversation about that ended, his mom turned to me and began asking about my future plans. She does not look at my boyfriend at all and only looks at me. She asked about when we want to move out together, as well as when we want to get married and have kids. I tell her I'm not sure if I want kids, and I want to be financially stable, have a solid job, and get married before doing that. She tells me that I should want to have kids now and live day by day instead of worrying about having an established plan. She tells me that my boyfriend's biological father did not want kids until they were established adults either, but she wanted kids so she got pregnant. I thought this was crazy because they were married in their early 20s. He expressed he did not want kids yet, and she still purposefully got pregnant. She often acts like a victim because my boyfriend's biological father left her, and my boyfriend constantly tells me he feels so sorry for her and that she is the strongest woman that he knows. She proceeds to tell me that she wants to be a young grandma and wants me to have children as soon as possible. She says that she does not want to look old in her pictures with her grandkids. She made the whole process of us having kids seem like it was all about her. Months ago, I had told her I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and if I have kids, she told me that I should want to work and provide for myself, and that I should not rely on anyone else. My boyfriend told me that I should not worry about being a stay-at-home mom because I can work while his mom takes care of our kids. But I only want kids if my partner and I can afford for me to be a stay-at-home mom. I know that is a lot to ask for this economy, but if that can't happen, then I simply will not plan on having kids. I am happy to work and I love my job, but if I do have kids, I would like to care for them at home until they're older. My boyfriend's mom is very much against this idea. I think maybe because she wants to be the primary caregiver, but I don't really want such a hot-headed, short-tempered person raising my kids, and I know that sounds awful. I don't even have kids yet, and I'm still worried about that. His mother did multiple things on this trip that made me very uncomfortable. I won't get into all of them, but one thing was that she took something that I had just bought and did something with it that I had asked her not to do. I did not express discomfort to her, but I spoke to my boyfriend in private afterwards. It truly was not too big of a deal, but I wanted him to know that I didn't like it. Well, he completely shut down and got defensive. We barely spoke for the rest of the day and went to bed mad at each other. My boyfriend and I have also been planning on going to a concert together once he moves here, and his mom has already invited herself to that as well. Since I have gotten home from my last trip, I have taken this concern very seriously and sat down and told my boyfriend how I truly feel about his mom. When it came to the first conversation, he did not understand why I was upset. Eventually, he saw how serious I was, and I was brutally honest with him, and I told him that I was considering pulling out of the relationship if things did not get better. He promised that he would do so much better and apologize for everything. He assured me that he would set boundaries and do anything he had to. I told him I could not know for sure if that was possible before they move here, so I was still doubtful about continuing the relationship. His solution was that he would move to my state first without them. He brings up this idea to his mom while they are out having dinner one-on-one, as they do quite often, and she says it has always been the three of them, meaning her, her husband, and her son, so that she would have to follow within 2 to 3 months after he moved if he moved here alone. She also asked him, well, what if I want to move there? As in, she would move there with or without his permission as soon as she wanted. The conversation did not go anywhere else past this point. He He didn't tell his mom, no, we will need more time than 2 to 3 months. Or say it cannot just be the 3 of us forever once I'm an adult and start my own family. I mean, he said nothing of the sort. He did not even attempt to set a single boundary. He saw her get teary-eyed and could not do it. I don't want to separate him from his mother or force a wedge between their relationship, but I don't think she can let go, and he is too nice to set any kind of boundaries. And this conversation happened hours after I told him I would pull out of the relationship if he could not prove to me that he could set boundaries. I believe she will resent me for stealing her son from her, or my boyfriend and I will constantly be fighting about his mother. My heart tells me that dinner is all I need to know about his ability to make boundaries. My biggest concern is that he cannot take any criticism about his mom. She has no boundaries, invites herself to everything, has an opinion about many personal things within our relationship, and it honestly really bothers me. I wish I could share every specific story about how she has acted, as well as the things that she has said, but it would literally be a book. And that is considering that I only see her maybe 6 to 8 weeks out of the year, and pretty soon it will be forever. Is it worth having the man of my dreams that comes in a package deal with his mother? I truly believe that he will not be able to set the boundaries that I am comfortable with. I am so happy with him, but I know I cannot be happy with her. I guess I already know my answer, but I am so heartbroken and I feel like a huge jerk. I wish I could accept and love his mother, but I am not sure that I can. Their relationship is far too close, and she is unpleasant to be around. I don't want my future to be controlled by her. He says he can set boundaries and he is willing to do anything to stay with me, but their conversation about him moving on his own proved to me otherwise. Plus, it was only a month ago when he would not speak to me for an entire day, all because I expressed discomfort to him in private about something that his mother did. He is planning to move here at the end of April, so I do not have much time to make my decision and put a halt to it. Maybe she does not sound that bad, but I'm preparing for the worst already because I truly do not know what it will be like when we are finally no longer long distance. I do not want to regret having them uproot their lives and move across the country only to end up wishing they were not here. I truly do not think I could ever find another boyfriend as loyal and thoughtful as well as selfless as my boyfriend. He is my best friend and my whole life, but his relationship to his mother has caused me to feel like this may not be right. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. This is insane. I seriously want to say that quite literally. This is an insane scenario and I can't believe you're still sticking around. Okay, let me just say first and foremost, if I was in your shoes, I would have backed out of this relationship after the cruise. I would have known right then and there that he does not care about my best interest and he is going to be married to his mom for the rest of his life. Like for starters, his mom is a narcissist and she really acts like she's in a relationship with her son. And not only is that super creepy, but it's also setting a weird precedent that your boyfriend absolutely needs to address. Like that is so weird to me, it's not even funny. So the moment he was like, oh my gosh, you're just being ridiculous, and got all defensive when you said, hey, what your mom did was really weird and I don't like it, that would have been like the biggest red flag on planet Earth. Not to mention the myriad of other things you said about this woman. I guarantee you, in my opinion, the second you marry that man and the second she is all around your life, she will literally ruin your marriage. Because I know in my mind, if I was in your shoes and I got married to that guy, I would also be getting married to his mom. Because wherever your spineless boyfriend goes, your mom is also going to be there to tell him exactly what to do. Like this guy has no backbone in the slightest too, by the way. And I'm not trying to be offensive, I'm just trying to tell you exactly how I see this. Because this honestly looks really bad. So truly, you can do whatever you want with your life, but in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would have broken up with this guy a long time ago. There's no way I would want to stay with someone like that, especially if they hold their mother above their spouse in their relationship. Because that's exactly what this guy's doing. His mother is on a completely different pedestal that you deserve to be placed on, and that is honestly not fair for you in the slightest. Today, I filed a restraining order against my snowplow guy who was contracted to plow my driveway, but never did it for the entire time we lived in our home. And after confronting him and telling him we're going to cancel our service, this guy loses his mind, even going as far as making threats against me and my family if we do decide to cancel his contract. And I've honestly never been more blown away by somebody's entitlement in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm going to say that today was one of the most insane days I've ever had in my life. It involved me contacting the sheriff and picking up the paperwork for a restraining order and involving my attorney, all because our snowplow guy decided to threaten me and my family. So with that intro out of the way, let's get started. Late last year, our house was ruined from water intrusion in the house. It's been a massive massive insurance claim, and as part of that, the insurance company has been paying for us to rent a house nearby. We moved into this place recently, and it's been great so far. One of the benefits was that as part of the lease, we would have someone who would come by to snowplow the driveway, which was really great. And the weekend we moved in there was a massive snowstorm. There were 60-mile-an-hour winds, and the driveway at our new place was snowed in. Well, the plow guys never showed up, so I basically shrugged it off, got my snowblower that we brought from our previous place, and I cleared the driveway. I messaged the owner and asked if she could share the plow guy's number so I could message him. She did, and surprise, surprise, it was actually someone we knew. This guy has a bit of a reputation, but we never had any problem with him. This is a small town after all. So I sent him a message and said that we were living at this place and that I had my trailer parked in the driveway and would need him to keep the snow banks pushed out so that I can turn it around properly. I also offered to help keep the parts he couldn't reach clear with my snowblower, since plowing around the trailer can be a pain. And by the way, this is a super massive driveway and parking area. I have 4 trailers parked, and there is still tons of room. They are also parked in places out of the way of his push paths. For what it's worth, if he had said to me, "Sorry, I can't plow your driveway as it is," I would have been like, "No problem at all, I will take care of it." I had no expectations of him at all and was fully prepared to do it myself. But he said all was good and told me not to bother snow plowing, as he would be by with one of his machines to clear things up. Well, not long after, another store comes by, and 1 to 2 feet of snow have landed on our driveway, and my wife can't get out. So I got up, started the snowblower, and cleared the driveway. By the way, this is not a quick process. It takes me about an hour to do the whole thing. His employer with a loader shows up at about 10 o'clock p.m. that night, sees the driveway looks clear, and drives on by to his next stop, which is a house close by. I didn't make a fuss about it because I get it. Maybe we are the last on his route, but I can't just sit inside all day and wait. I just thought to myself, well, maybe this guy just got a freebie on me, which basically means he didn't have to do his work. A short bit of time went by and I woke up to go snowmobiling. We had a fresh 18 inches of snow on the driveway and the plow guy hadn't come along, and I had to leave at 8:15 to meet my friend at the trailhead. My trailer weighs 7,000 pounds. It's 28 feet long, it's enclosed, and it holds 5 sleds. My big truck with brand new top-of-the-line snow tires can't pull that thing up a hill in 18 inches of fresh snow. So I got my snowblower out, cleared the path from the trailer to the main road, and off I went. I got back at 4 o'clock p.m. and they still weren't there. So I cleared the rest of the driveway so I could turn around and park the trailer. And once again, their guy drove by at 10:30 p.m. at night. Now, here's where all the crazy really starts to pop off. The owner texted me today and said to me, "Do not snowblow your driveway anymore. You are taking money out of my pocket." To which I responded that I have no interest in snowblowing my driveway and would prefer for them to do it, but that I need them to come early in the morning because we work and we need to get out of the driveway, and I can't get my trailer out without clearing a path. Trust me, I've tried this several times. He then called me immediately after that, and everything really popped off. The phone call went something like this. This guy said to me, "You better stop what you're doing because we are contracted to plow that house, and you are causing me to lose money every time you do it. You need to learn how to just deal with it when it snows." I told him I was dealing with it. If I can't get my car out of the driveway, I'm gonna clear it. I don't have time to hope that they show up. Now, during the call, he called me an awful name and said I need to learn how to drive like a man, that I should go park my trailer in town the day before, and that I was not allowed to plow my own driveway. He then told me how my house was the lowest on his priority list, but he still felt entitled to the money for the plow fees. Now, I didn't know this, but apparently his contract is a base monthly rate and a very large payment for every extra plow when the snow is above 6 inches. Our insurance pays the homeowner directly, so we aren't really aware of this. But anyways, the call got heated. He was yelling at me nonstop that I was screwing him over and how I'm apparently a jerk and I'm not allowed to clear my own driveway. At this point, I basically said that if it's such a problem, perhaps I'll just call the owners and suggest they cancel the contract. I am the one paying for it after all. Now, I do have a budget with insurance, and this is a line item. So honestly, why would I want someone plowing my driveway who's gonna treat me like garbage? Well, from here on out, it got way worse. He started making threats about how if I get the contract canceled, he's gonna come down there and deal with me, and lots of other things not worth saying corresponding to threats against myself and my family. And at that point, I ended the call. Then I immediately called the local police department. I filed a report, a case was opened, and I was referred her to the sheriff's office. I also called the owners who were applauded by what had happened. They immediately sent him a note stating that he is no longer allowed to come by the property and they canceled his service. To add to this, it's not the first time he's done something like it. The sheriff's deputy is very familiar with him, as are many people in town. We also have security cameras all over the property, and we will be following up with the authorities. So honestly, with all things considered, I have definitely had a very interesting day. Wow, imagine being so entitled and so out of touch that you threaten your customers with violence, all because they said, hey, you're doing a bad job and I don't want your service anymore. Like, that's an entirely different level of crazy that I just didn't think was possible. Like, literally, all they have to do is show up early and plow his driveway and this all would have been solved. But they kept skating by and just being lazy about it, so it left the original poster on the hook to plow it himself. And it's so funny to me that this guy was like, oh, you better not plow your driveway ever again. I'm officially banning you from plowing your driveway. But it's like, buddy, what are you talking about? You can't ban me from my own driveway. That's just not gonna happen. So truly, I think the original poster went about this the right way. They got the authorities involved and they definitely did this exactly the way I would have done it. Because this snowplow guy was completely out of line and his behavior absolutely deserved to be punished. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My sister-in-law is stealing from me and using her baby as an excuse. And after dealing with this for so long, I decided along with my wife that we would be kicking them out. Here's what happened. Okay, so I first want to start off by saying that all names in this story are fake. Anyways, my sister-in-law Jessica and her husband and my brother Liam are staying with me and my wife due to foundation trouble at their home. And simply put, she's been an absolute nightmare when it comes to taking things that aren't hers and brushing them off because she needs them due to her baby, who is my nephew by the name of Liam Jr. Now, there are lots of moments like this, but here are some of the worst ones, but trust me, this is a very condensed list. For starters, she took my expensive hair products that was made specifically for thick hair because, and I quote, Liam Jr. can't handle strong scents and yours are just gentler on his nose. I mean, she used the entire 16-ounce bottle of conditioner in 3 days. And mind you, Liam Jr. is only 3 months old. I also caught her trying to take the food I delivered for everybody into her room after it was delivered. I ordered almost 6 full meals to dish out for the entire house, and she was just holding this large paper bag in her room. She told me she was just sorting through it to find her food, but she was sitting down with chopsticks and the door was closed, so I call BS. She has also taken all of my snacks. My pantry has a shelf labeled specifically for me due to a mild food allergy that has all the snacks that I bought. I keep seeing her walking back and forth past my room with my snacks. If I or my wife try to confront her, she cries that she's breastfeeding and she needs the energy. Then she'll get my brother to chew me out. For the record, we do have a communal snack bin, but she won't even touch those snacks in there. She also took my gift card stash from my shelf in the kitchen and spent nearly $75 on random BS because she claimed she wanted to make the room more comfortable for Liam Jr. But I use those gift cards when I go shopping or as presents for sudden events. And she knows this, but she still took 6 to 8 different gift cards out with her. It has honestly been nonstop for the past 3 weeks, and I'm just so completely done with her. She's taken my hair ties, my shirts from the laundry, my sleeping bonnets, and my lipstick. She even took a bottle of my apple cider gummies, which I know she doesn't like because she's tried them before. I feel like she's doing it just to spite me or to assert herself, but I'm honestly considering kicking her out because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Before we go any further, the original poster actually has an update. They explain that they have a lot of sympathy for their family and their circumstance, but after sharing this story on the internet and getting responses from people as well as self-reflecting, they eventually realized that they need to go. Here's what happened next. Okay, so we had the talk with them about an hour ago and it went bad really fast. My brother and Jessica were screaming and Liam Jr. was crying because of all the noise, and somehow that was still my fault. They yelled for a good 40 minutes about how they had nowhere else to go and that they won't be able to stay together if I kick them out. It was hard for me, but my wife helped me with my stress. This argument was so bad because Jessica went on so many rants. She said to me, if you kick us out, you'll never see me or my son ever again, while also saying that we would never know how stressed out she is, all because we can't have children. And she said this and many other things, along with a healthy dose of cursing. I told them that my wife and I's decision was final, and Jessica locked herself in her room with Liam Jr. My brother tried to apologize, apologize, saying that he was just stressed out from work as well as his new baby and that Jessica was putting pressure on him, but my wife cut him off and told him to imagine how stressed out I've been when my things went missing. He just kind of slumped in his seat, then went back and joined Jessica in the room after I denied his pleas to stay again. I heard them arguing for a bit, but only for about 15 minutes. I got a text message from Jessica's mother asking what was happening, but it wasn't hostile, so I didn't think that she had the full story. I'm debating telling her since she is technically not involved yet. I've gotten 3 or 4 similar messages from numbers I don't recognize, so I think Jessica may have told people my number or posted something online. Fast forward to today, and I had Jessica and Liam waking me and my wife up by clambering around about 20 minutes ago. They didn't say much while they were packing up their stuff, but Jessica did turn to me and say, "I hope you're happy now. Don't expect to see Liam Jr. anytime soon." And it seemed like she was going to start some kind of weird rant, but my brother just cut her off and told her to go wait in the car. He asked me if he and his family could stay if he paid back the amount of items that Jessica took, but I just flat out said no. He shook his head in a disapproving way and made a few more trips for their bags. And then that was it. They were out, and I'm surprised they left so early and so willingly, but I didn't feel good when they left. I felt awful. My stomach was in knots and my chest was burning. I should feel happy, but I don't. All I can do is worry. I just feel completely useless. I was trying to help, and now I might not see my nephew ever again. I went out of my way, and now it feels like I'm being punished. I'm pretty sure they'll try something again, but it is not my concern anymore. My brother left his spare key in the kitchen, but I'm still gonna change my locks. Jessica texted me that Liam is going to be staying in a motel near his job all the way until they figure something else out, and that she's gonna be stuck with her mother. For reference, her mom lives about 4 hours away, and honestly, all the advice I got was completely right. I just needed to have them gone, but I wish I didn't feel so bad about it. My wife has been comforting me as best as she can, and I appreciate her so much. She's been so supportive, and I'm just lucky to have her, and I just hope that things get better sooner than later. Wow, the original poster made the right decision of getting those people out. They were very clearly taking advantage of your situation, and they were obviously unwilling to get on their own 2 feet. They were terrible house guests and like roommates, and they made your life a living nightmare. So with all things considered, I don't blame you in the slightest for kicking them out, because if that were me, they definitely would have had to go no matter what. Am I the jerk for not telling my family that I could cook and letting them embarrass themselves in front of my in-laws? Because right now they're very angry with me, claiming that I set them up just to be petty. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Growing up as the youngest in my family, I was often treated like I was a little princess who couldn't do anything for myself, which was aided by the fact that I was a very clumsy child, and some things took me a lot of practice and patience to get right. I was the butt of the joke, and family loved to tease me and crack jokes about the fact that I couldn't boil water, or how I was a disaster everywhere I went. They would always say I could never be trusted in a kitchen, and would need to find a man who could cook and clean for me in the future. It was something I resented, and it did make me feel self-conscious. I would try really hard to not mess up, but somehow I always seemed to. Moving out to attend college was the best thing I ever did. I met so many great people, including my husband, and I thrived in an environment where nobody was making fun of me. One of my friends was in culinary school, and she taught me a lot of cooking skills that I could use in my day-to-day life. She was really patient and suggested that I might have something like dyspraxia. She recognized some of my difficulties as being similar to her brother's. Well, sure enough, I went to my doctor, and she referred me to specialists to help diagnose me. Now, I have a milder form, which is why it was never brought to attention enough. I just looked like I was careless or clumsy as a child. I didn't see or speak to my family a lot during this time. When I did, it was awkward. My husband, who was my then boyfriend, would come with me sometimes, and he was always so annoyed by the jokes they'd make about me. When we got married, we actually eloped while on vacation overseas with his family. It was amazing and made for a much less stressful wedding. My family and in-laws had seen each other once or twice before, but only briefly. So when my family decided they wanted to come and see me and stayed for a weekend in a hotel, we decided to host both families. And I decided right then that I was gonna cook. But we didn't announce that until my parents had started making their little jokes and crediting only my husband for the food and the cleanliness or our home. My in-laws were aware of how my family act, but even they didn't really realize how little they believed in me. My husband happily informed my family after they had really made jerks of themselves that I had cooked the entire meal and that we we shared those responsibilities. He also said the same thing goes for the cleaning. Now, my family tried to deny it. They said, no, she can't do that. But my in-laws said I was cooking almost as long as they knew me, and I did a good job every single time. My mother-in-law mentioned my diagnosis, and my dad told her they thought I was just trying to make excuses. My family was incredibly awkward, and my in-laws left with a better understanding of my family and a nice dose of anger at them for how far they were willing to go to humiliate me in front of them. My family was also very upset with me for not explaining things better beforehand. Not the condition itself, but the fact that I do cook now and I could do it. They said I tried to humiliate them out of pettiness. So honestly, I need to know, am I the jerk for proving my family wrong? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Your family is so toxic, like seriously, that is insane to me. They're also just straight up bullies. Like these people want to try and keep you down and keep you stuffed in this very specific box that they can control. Like these people sound absolutely awful. Even now as an adult, like a full-grown adult, they still tried to mock you in front of your husband and your in-laws. And I know if I was in your shoes, that would be like the last time I would ever want them around me in my life. Like if you getting eloped without them being there is any indication that they are not welcome in your life, then I don't know what else is. But when it comes to the incident in question, honestly, I think you handled it perfectly. Those people deserve to be embarrassed for the way they were treating you, because they've been putting you down and bullying you ever since you were a child. And I can't believe they still keep that up even into your adulthood. So I think them getting a taste of their own medicine and seeing exactly how toxic they're being and how rude and absolutely obnoxious they are, honestly and hopefully is a really good wake-up call for how mean they've been. So truly, good for you for getting away from these people and finally breaking free from this weird shell that they've placed you in, because their demeanor and attitude towards you is absolutely unacceptable. And if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. An entitled table that I was serving refused to leave me a tip at the end of the night, claiming that our 20% gratuity that they were aware of at the beginning of the night was way too much money and that they were never going to pay it. So me and the management team decided to call the cops, scaring this family straight, leading to them dropping the issue entirely. And I've honestly never felt better about making unpleasant people not get their way. Here's what happened. Okay, so for the first time ever, we had to call the police on a table. We have a very strict policy, 20% gratuity added to groups of 5 or larger. My last table, a family of 5, ordered margaritas with top shelf tequilas and 5 surf and turfs plus 2 appetizers and desserts. The check ended up being about $400 and the tip was around $70 in total. The oldest woman at the table insists that they are not going to pay, that a $70 tip is ludicrous, and that she's willing to leave maybe $40. After a lot of back and forth, I explained to her that we have rules, which she agreed to when she made the reservation and was reminded to them when they arrived. She insisted that she wasn't going to pay, so my supervisor called the police. In my country, we often have trouble with tourists thinking that they can do whatever they want. They were very confident and maybe thought that we were not going to call the police or maybe planned to leave before they arrived. But thank goodness we had a huge security guard who stood in front of the exit until the cops came along. The police showed up and 7 different officers ended up arriving. And let me tell you something, the face of the family was hilarious. They literally dropped the entire issue and agreed to pay when they saw the consequences to their actions. Now, I felt no rage towards the table. I was finishing my night and I could care less if they left a tip or not, but I definitely enjoyed watching rude and unpleasant people not get their way. That really is an awesome story because you know what? People like this absolutely deserve to get put in their place. They came to that restaurant, they knew exactly what was going on, and it was clearly explained to them that yes, there's a 20% gratuity fee, so you better organize your payments right now instead of trying to work around it at the end. And I think with that in mind, it's really cool that your management had your back and they didn't let these people get away with being so stingy. Like they knew what they were getting into. They knew this was coming at the end of the night, so it's not like they could have just planned on that and been like, okay, there's a 20% fee, we gotta be careful in what we buy. So truly good for the original poster and the management team, as well as the guy working security, for making sure that these people were honest with their dealings. Because I guarantee you they would have loved nothing more than to get away with not giving you a proper tip. And that, in my opinion, would have been absolutely unacceptable. An entitled Karen calls me stupid, all because her phone bill wasn't paid, thus resulting in her service being canceled. But after dealing with this lady for far too long, I decided that enough was enough, resulting in me kicking her out of my store store without helping her any further. And I honestly hope I never have to deal with that entitled Karen ever again. Here's what happened. Okay, so for a bit of background, I work as a manager for a major cell phone carrier. The amount of times we see customers who don't pay their bill and get mad that their service is shut off is crazy. Like, yeah, we're not going to provide you service if you don't pay what you owe. But I also do understand that people run into financial issues, and I will do what I can to help them out. Just don't be a jerk and we can see what can be done. So recently, I had a Karen show up to my store in a huff. When I see customers looking angry or annoyed come in, I take them instead of giving them to one of my reps because I feel like ultimately I'll get asked to help anyways. So I see her walk in with her kids and I look towards her and I smile. I say to her, "Hi there, how are you guys doing today?" She looks at me and says, "Not so good." I continue by saying, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. What seems to be the problem?" The Karen then says, "Well, you guys cut off my service and I'm mad because I talked to your customer service yesterday and they said that I should be fine with service until I make my payment next week." Now, when it comes to situations like this, all I can do at the store is have her pay her bill to restart her service. When customer service makes promises like this, which does happen a lot by the way, we can try to contact customer service and have them turn their phones back on. Now, the issue with contacting customer service for a customer who has a past due bill is that the call will just go straight to billing to make them pay. If we enter another customer service number, customer service will just hang up and report the store. So, knowing this, I tell the customer exactly this to give her the right expectation, but I assure her that I'll do what I can to get in touch with customer service. But when I said that, she did not like that. The Karen started screeching by saying, "What do you mean you can't restart my service or contact customer service? It's you guys' fault that my service is shut off." I say to her, "It's not that I can't, it's that it'd be difficult to get someone on the line due to your account status. I'm just trying to set the right expectations." The Karen then rolls her eyes and says, "Just get me my service running again." So I guide her to my store's phone and I call the number that we have to call customer service. On the phone, I chose the option to speak with a representative and the automated machine asked for the number I'm working with. I dial her number and we get sent straight to billing. We then hear the pre-recorded billing department message and the Karen then interrupts. She says, "That's the message that I get when I call them." So I say to her, "Yes, like I said before, this will be the only department you'll be able to contact and this is due to your account status." The Karen then says, "Well, then use your direct customer service line." But I explain to her that this is that number. I then say to her, "If you want, we can call back and try another option, but I think it will lead us right back to here." The Karen agrees, so I hang up and call again. I try this time to reach a different customer service department besides the general department that we call. But again, as soon as the system recognized her number, we hear the billing message again. The Karen then screams out, "This is garbage." But trust me, she didn't say garbage. Instead, she said a pretty bad swear word. I look at her and I say, "Ma'am, please, no swearing in the store." This Karen looks at me and says, "I'll say whatever I want. You can't tell me what to do." So I respond by saying, "Well, you're absolutely right, but I can't have you leave with no resolution to your problem." The Karen then says, "Well, then use someone else's number to get someone to answer." But I explain, just like before, that I won't be doing that. I won't be getting my store in trouble for doing that. The Karen then starts to plead. She says to me, "You have to listen to me. Now use your number to get someone else." I respond to her by saying that I'm not using my number. I've done all that I can do for you. If you want to use someone else's number, then you can call customer service from a different phone. The Karen then says, "Then give me their number." And you know what? I gladly did so. I start walking back to write down the number for her, and as soon as I open the door to the back room, I hear her say, "That guy is an idiot." I then stop in my tracks and I walk right back out to her. I look at her square in the face and I say, "You can leave right now. I understand you're mad about service being shut off, but that doesn't give you the right to insult me or my team. So please, just leave." The Karen then says in a condescending tone, "Well, I'm sorry. Just please give me customer service's number and then I'll leave." But I look at her and I say, "No, you can Google it." The Karen asks me how she's supposed to do that since her service is shut off, but I responded by saying, "Well, that's not my problem, so you can leave now." The Karen, after she notices that I'm not gonna budge, picks up her stuff and grabs her kid and then marches towards the exit. She says as she's almost to the door that I'm a jerk, which one of my reps replied by saying, "Well, at least he pays his bills." And honestly, I just hope I never have to deal with that lady ever again. Yeah, that's a really weird way for somebody to treat you, especially when you are doing everything you can to help them out. It's like, "I'm sorry, lady, I'm not the reason your phone's not working. Maybe if you paid your bill once in a while, this wouldn't be a problem." Like, if you're really gonna not pay your phone bill and then be like, "Wow, why is it not working?" then you really clearly have not thought this through like at all. And I just love the fact that your coworker had your back the entire way. They literally came back with the best insult, and that is so awesome. And hopefully for the sake of the original poster and that store, that lady never comes back ever again. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled soccer coach gives me the cold shoulder, claiming that he has every right to use our field that we reserved as he was there first before us. So I decided to maliciously comply, making him regret his decision right from the start as he realized we had a professional looking field that had all the bells and whistles he could only dream of having. And I've honestly never felt better about getting back at some jerk like that in my life. Here's what happened. Several years ago, I coached a kids soccer team. It was a community recreation league with volunteer coaches with a focus on fun and equal playing time. There were 2 fields next to a school. The third field is a 2-minute walk away and hidden behind a thick stand of trees invisible from the 2 fields. One would never know it was there, but it did have a small parking lot next to it that was accessible only by a rarely used, poorly maintained back lane. Most people would park in the school lot and walk the 2 minutes along the path through the trees. The 2 fields next to the school were typical school fields, not particularly well maintained, uneven, and definitely not regulation sized, so a typical school field. The third field was regulation sized, perfectly maintained, had new bleachers, and was maintained like a professional field, with regular waterings, cutting, and seeding. It was the groundskeeper's pride and joy. It was the first day of a new season, and my team of 10-year-olds named the Brown Pandas showed up for our first practice. But the problem is that there was another team on our assigned field, a team of talented players with matching socks and shorts, and they were all wearing cleats and they were in their late teens. I approached the coach and explained that he was on our field and that his field was a 2-minute walk away down the path. Well, he politely told me to take a hike. He was there first, so that was that. So, not looking for a confrontation, I took my team to the really nice field. The parents had bleachers to sit in, and we had a great time on the big boy field. After the practice, the groundskeeper asked me why we were practicing on this field. I told her what happened with the other coach, and she told me she asked the other coach to switch fields also, and he told her to get stuffed, and that was his field. Well, 2 days later at our second practice, his team was on our field again. So the groundskeeper called me over to talk to her and the other coach. She stated, "Just to confirm for the rest of the season, you are switching fields with the Brown Pandas on the far field, and your team is on this field, correct?" "Yeah, this is our field, and the little kids can be on the far field." And the coach looked incredibly arrogant as he said that. I stated that was fine by me, so I grabbed all of our soccer balls and I trudged over to the professional field. 2 glorious weeks passed when during practice the other coach came over with his team and saw the state of our field. He approached me and told me that we needed to switch fields, but I laughed in his face. I told him to go get the groundskeeper so we can discuss it. I then turned my back on him and probably did something like tie a kid's shoe or dry some tears. Remember, these are 10-year-old kids. His team started trying to use our field, and one of my Brown Pandas was scared of the bigger kids and started crying. A couple of parents stepped in and started shooing them away before one of the 10-year-olds got hurt. The coach later returned with his entire team and the groundskeeper, and she was beaming. She asked him if he remembered our conversation of 2 weeks ago, and that's when he started to argue. She told him that we were keeping the same terms of that agreement and to go back to his own field. She said, "Go on, scoot," and I remember her saying that so happily. We had our first game the next week, and all the Brown Panda parents were in attendance watching their children play soccer on a beautiful field with semi-comfortable seating and a working scoreboard. As we left, we walked by the other team playing on a muddy, oversized field. They eventually changed their game dates and times so they could use the big field but had to practice on the old field. And the Brown Pandas never had to set foot on the older field all season. And I've honestly never felt better about putting an arrogant coach in his place. Yeah, that other coach was a jerk right off the pass. Like seriously, all you had to do was be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize that. Let's switch places real quick, my bad." Or maybe even something close to that effect. Like instead he wanted to be like, "Nope, we got here first, it's ours, we claim it." But it's like, buddy, what are you doing? Like it is literally not that serious. Let's just calm down here real quick. So truly, good for you for maliciously complying, as well as basically outing this guy as a complete jerk, because his behavior was completely inappropriate and he definitely deserved to be shut down. My awful boss and awful coworker treat me like garbage, but one of the few silver linings of having to work with them is watching them bicker and fight back and forth while I get to watch on the sidelines. And after watching such brunch incident happened today, I honestly felt happy that for once I wasn't stuck in the middle. Here's what happened. So I work at a pretty small, privately owned restaurant. I have this one coworker who we will call Jay, who is a massive edgelord. He really dislikes me, and trust me, the feeling is mutual. We can work civilly, but he occasionally will shoulder check me or say something really snotty. Everyone says he can't keep my name out of his mouth, and I don't know why, because I've only been myself, and I try to be super nice and helpful to everybody. But honestly, whatever. Now, our boss, who we will call Sam, is part owner. He studied somewhere fancy or something like that. He thinks making every single dish, process, and method as complicated as possible will make it sophisticated. He is a massive jerk, and any chance he has to belittle you, he will take it. So on Sundays, we do brunch, and trust me, it's a nightmare. Everyone is angry, nothing goes right, and it's a lot of work. We close at 2 p.m., and the closer will often stay until 5 o'clock p.m. alone, finishing the side work and everything up. However, they let us have as much free food as we would like, and after close, we all take a small break to eat together. So yesterday, it was brunch, and we had a new girl by the name of Lucy. Lucy forgot to ring in a soup for her table, but came back immediately and told them that she needed one on the fly. And this was our hostess by the name of Vicky, who's also Sam's stepdaughter, who had just rung in all of the employees' food. Well, Sam gets up in arms about it and says, "Oh, I see how you guys are. You can ring in your own food correctly, but not the guests, right? Thanks, guys." Jay eventually pipes back and says, "It's almost like two different people put those orders in." And when Jay said that, Sam got so mad, he started on a tirade about smart aleck comments and so on. And honestly, despite not really liking Jay and thinking he's a massive jerk, I'm kind of proud of that one singular moment. Yeah, I've had coworkers like Jay as well as Sam in the past, and trust me, both of them are cut from the same cloth. But I also realized, probably like the original poster did, that if you set them against each other, then it can quickly be an entertaining scenario. Because regardless of who wins that engagement, you win in the end because you see the two people you don't like going at it. And honestly, that's a beautiful thing to see, especially when you work in a toxic environment. Am I the jerk for talking about my supposed perfect pregnancy and making my sister feel bad? Because right now she says that I'm being a jerk and that I'm bragging about something that she couldn't have. And right now I feel awful and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my sister has an 18-month-old baby girl. Her pregnancy was very rough. She was very sick. Her husband and her separated in the middle of her pregnancy, and she didn't have a lot of support from our parents, which isn't their fault. They were low contact before she got pregnant, and that's because of some of the stuff my sister and her husband did. Lately, they've gotten back in touch again and are fixing their relationship. I am 35 weeks pregnant as well, and my pregnancy wasn't entirely hard. My husband and I have a good relationship, and I would say it's even better now. My relationship with my parents and our siblings has always been good too, and besides some minor inconveniences, my pregnancy has been going great so far. My mother is planning to move in with us for 1 or 2 weeks after I give birth, just to try and help me out, which is something she didn't do for my sister. We were discussing this last Saturday because our parents had a family dinner and both of us were invited. Our parents and our sister-in-law, who is my brother's wife, were asking me about my pregnancy as well, and if we were preparing for the baby. I don't feel like we were only talking about me and my baby, like we were all having a normal conversation about work, politics, football, and stuff we regularly talk about. However, when I was telling them about my last checkup, my sister told me that it's not right to brag. So I asked her what she meant by that because I wasn't bragging at all. She told me that talking about how good and perfect my pregnancy has been so far is definitely me bragging. Once again, I told her I'm not bragging, and my mom backed me up on that as well. But as soon as our mom spoke up, my sister blew up. She accused me of being mean, of being a golden child, of wanting to drag attention back to me, of being overbearing, and all this other stuff. She said I'm enjoying that she and her daughter are second-class citizens to our family because she's sure that everyone will spoil my baby as they spoil me, that I'm faking weakness to gain sympathy and have everyone pampering me. I told her to not blame me for her mistakes because if she didn't have a great support system, it's because of her own fault and not mine. She called me a selfish and spoiled brat, and I called her a bitter and envious jerk. She also had a fight with our parents and my husband. Lastly, our dad told her to leave. My husband and I stayed a little bit longer, and I will admit it, we were definitely talking badly about her. Now that I'm thinking about it, I wonder if I made a mistake. Our whole family is rethinking if we want to go low contact with her again. So I honestly just don't know, and I'm kind of doubting myself. Now, for some additional context, The problem our family had with her is regarding some inherited jewelry from our grandmother. She pawned them to go on an expensive vacation with her husband. She got some of it back but lost a necklace that had been in our family for generations. We all love our grandmother and really valued these things since they were very important to her. And she never acknowledged her mistake or apologized, which really is the worst part about all of this. Because if she had at least apologized and said that she was very sure that she'll be able to get the items back, then I think it would have been different. She knows that she hurt us, but never even apologized for hurting our feelings and our grandma's memory. So honestly, I need to know, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you are definitely not the jerk. Your sister is a complete moron. Like, she's trying to pretend like you're bragging about your pregnancy while also conveniently forgetting how she pawned off a family heirloom. Like, seriously, all of her problems and distance she has with her family is literally her own fault. And this is like the lowest barrier of entry too, by the way. Don't sell off something that's precious to the family, and then there you go, nobody rightfully will hate you. Like, her entitled attitude and the way she's acting is honestly so obnoxious. And for her to basically be like, wow, stop bragging about your pregnancy, that is literally just her projecting her own insecurities on you, and that's not fair in the slightest. Like, you have not done anything to her. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. I think your sister is incredibly weird and very entitled, and she's obviously very jealous about the way you're going about your pregnancy, because she literally dug her own grave in this sense, and now that she's angry that she's down at a really bad spot is only the result of her making terrible choices. Am I the jerk for defending myself against my sister-in-law, who was visibly upset that we waited to tell her that we're expecting a baby, as well as keeping the name of our baby secret from everybody else? Because right now she is very angry, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My husband and I tried to have a child for 13 years before we accepted that we were never going to have it happen for us. We spent a lot of time hoping and trying different things, and nothing ever worked. I was 35 years old when we decided to come to terms with our life as a child-free couple. We sold our old house, downsizing considerably, and we started changing how we lived our life. We had devoted so much time to preparing to be a family with children that we didn't really know what we wanted now that it was no longer in the cards. Then, just after my 40th birthday, I discovered that I was pregnant. It was a huge shock, and what was even more surprising was that the baby was healthy when I went for my first scan. But I was afraid. I mean, we both were. So we waited until 18 weeks to tell people. I didn't really show until about 21 weeks, so that made it easy to hide. We announced and people were thrilled for us. All our siblings already had children who were 9 years of age and older, so this was the first baby born into the family for a while. We got asked about names and whether or not we would have a baby shower with a name reveal. We decided to keep the name to ourselves until he was born. We wanted something special and a surprise for people. Most people understood, but it came to our attention recently that one of my husband's sisters was not happy about any of this. She didn't like that we kept the pregnancy to ourselves for a while and disliked it even more that we didn't share the name. She brought this up at Christmas for the first time, and she surprised the entire family. She brought it up to my husband on 3 separate occasions after that, and then she brought it up to me 4 days ago. She told me that we left our families out when this was just as big of a deal for them as it was for us. She said everyone had waited for us to have a baby too, and how could we cut them out of something like that? She also claimed that we could have gotten feedback and blessings from our family on his name, which, by the way, for people who might ask, our child's name is going to be Hawthorne. I told her that the news came as such a surprise, and we worried and wanted to come to terms and get to what we felt was a safe point before telling anybody. She argued that we needed our family if something went wrong. Then she said that there was still no excuse for the name, that the name was kind of odd, and she would have liked us to pick something more classic, something like James or George. I told her I understood that everyone had their own taste, but we were getting one chance to name a child, and one chance to experience parenthood, and we wanted to make the most of it. I said we never did it to hurt anybody, but we wanted to do what felt right to us. She told me that was what my husband said and said it was lame, especially to defend myself that way when it was something that the whole family was experiencing. She told me we just wanted to leave everyone out and we should have known better. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you're definitely not the jerk. She sounds like one of those family members who crave to have all the information, also they can lord it over other people who don't have the information. She very clearly sounds like a busybody, and I would not pay her any mind. Because think about it, she's the only person complaining about this. She's trying to make it sound like, wow, the family should have known about all of this. But what she's really saying is that she should have known about this. Like no one else is saying what she is saying. She is literally revealing her hand right from the get-go, all under the guise that family should have been involved. But in her mind, the only family that should have been involved is her. So no, you are not the jerk. I wouldn't even bother telling her any more information about your pregnancy, because if she's gonna act weird, then she can wait on the outside looking in just like everybody else. An entitled mother demands that we give food to her at a discounted price, even though her son just ate half of it while in the store, claiming that he was hungry and that if we don't let them have a discounted price, then we are just monsters who would rather watch her son starve than eat some food. And I've honestly never been more blown away by somebody's entitlement in my life. Here's what happened. So I've been working as a cashier at a local grocery store for quite a while now, and I thought I'd seen everything, but this past Saturday, I encountered an entitled mother that left me both frustrated and baffled. Here's what went down. The store had a flurry of customers. Due to it being the day right before the Super Bowl, I'm manning a 14 items or less register right in front of the hot food section, which is always a hot spot for customers seeking a quick bite. At my store, the hot food is weighed, and that's so that a customer can choose how much food they want, depending on how hungry they are. Now, that probably sounds pretty straightforward, right? Well, apparently not for everybody. In comes the entitled mother of this story, with her son, who's maybe about 7 to 8 years old, happily digging into a container of hot food that's clearly half empty by now. They approach my register, and the son is still eating, and I brace myself for the conversation I know I will have to initiate. As I'm scanning their items, I leave the hot food for last, mentioning that I will need to weigh this. The entitled mother then dismissively waves off my comment. She says to me, "Oh, my little angel was just so famished. I had to let him start. Just weigh what's left, darling." Now, at this point, I'm trying to keep my professional cool here. I say to her, "I'm really sorry, but we need to charge for the hot food before it's consumed. Since it's been partially eaten, it's difficult to charge accurately now." Now, you would think that I had just declared war on this entitled mother, because her demeanor shifts as she launches into a rage. She starts screaming at me, "This is absolutely absurd. My baby is hungry, and you're telling me you'd rather have a child starve than break your silly store policy? What kind of monster are you?" Feeling the situation slipping, I suggest to her that I call a service leader to see what we can do about this. As we wait for my service leader, the entitled mother doesn't miss a beat. She turns to her son and says, "Don't worry, sweetie. Mommy's gonna make sure you get to eat. These mean people won't understand how hungry you are, but I do." My service leader arrives, and after I quickly explain the situation, he turns to the entitled mother with a calm yet fierce stance, reiterating the policy and suggesting that in the future, she should consider paying for the food first, just to avoid any kind of issues. Well, the entitled mother was not having it. She said to us, "This is unbelievable. You are all completely unreasonable. I'm trying to take care of my child here, and you're all just being so heartless." Turning back to her son, she begins to say, "It's okay, baby. We won't come back here where the bad people don't let you eat when you're hungry." And with that, she leaves the cart behind. And this is a cart full of cold items that need to be put back quickly, while also leaving the half-eaten hot food behind. She storms out, proclaiming over her shoulder about how we've lost a customer, and that she'll be telling all of her friends about our cruel policies. My service leader thanks me for trying to handle it well, and we both have a pretty good laugh about the situation. The rest of my day was a blur of scanning items and greeting customers, but my mind kept replaying the encounter, astonished at the lengths some parents will go to baby their children, even to the detriment of understanding and respecting simple rules and merchandise. Yeah, that entitled mother was clearly trying to get away with something. Like I've learned in customer service, the more angry and belligerent the customer is, the higher the chance they're trying to pull one over on you. And this entitled mom absolutely takes the cake. She clearly was trying to get a free meal for her kid, or at least get something discounted in the process. And it's like, come on, you definitely knew the policy. You're just trying to skate around the issue and be like, "Oh, just cut me a break specifically." Because trust me, if you give her a break, she will be back with her stupid kid, and she will try that again when you're not there. So honestly, with all things considered, I think you handled this situation really well, because that entitled mother was being an absolute jerk. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled regular customer comes into our restaurant and constantly says terrible things to me and the other female staff members, and I'm honestly so annoyed with his attitude and his demeanor that I seriously can't wait to finally leave this job later this year. Here's what happened. So I'm a bartender who deals with an incredibly unlikable regular who we will call Colin. Colin is not his real name. He's one of these military men who's in his mid-30s and has a young daughter and a pregnant wife. He frequently spends all day drinking at the bar, being disruptive, and trying to trap staff in uncomfortable situations surrounding his opinions and worldview. Colin is well known for towing the line, especially when he speaks to female staff in my restaurant. Colin is not well liked at all. I am one of the few people who openly airs my disdain for Colin to his face, which he seems to mistake for banter. He asked me once rather directly if I disliked him, and I told him he was not someone I would ever willingly choose to interact with outside of this building. Colin seemed to think that this was funny, and since then I've been able to openly insult him to his face, often in front of his friends and other regulars, and he just laughs, and I would call that an acceptable arrangement. I've told Colin off before for his abhorrent behavior, as with the time that he made a comment about the body of one of our hostesses by the name of Anne. Anne is not her real name. Colin is used to getting away with bothering people like this, but this time he was told that Anne is a minor, so he cannot talk to her like that. Colin tried to say that it was just a joke, but I told him to shut up and he did. I instructed Anne not to come near the bar whenever Colin is around, and that I would not let him get away with bothering her while she was just trying to work. The last time I saw Colin was about a week ago. I was arriving for my closing shift and taking over for the opening bartender. Before she gave me the rundown for her remaining tables, she asked me how my day was. I told her I recently finished a new tattoo, and we talked a bit about it as she's new to tattoos, but is becoming an enthusiast. I am known in the restaurant as the one with the tattoos after all. Colin happened to be sitting at the bar and was recently cut off by the opening bartender. He was not a part of the conversation, but seemed to be listening rather intently. He heard about my new tattoo and asked where it was and what it was. I told him it was a large portrait of a mythical figure on my thigh, and it's right about then that Colin responded in a way that I never expected. He said to me, "Okay, well let's see it, take off your pants." When he said this, he laughed really loudly and looked at the others sitting at the bar for encouragement, or perhaps a laugh of some kind, but was only met with other men staring intently at their beers and refusing to make eye contact. I swiftly told Colin, "Nope, try again." Colin backtracked and tried to say that it was just a joke, and instead opted to see if I had a photo. But still, I said, "No, Colin." Although he was cut off, he stuck around for a few minutes, loudly trying to engage with the other regulars at the bar, and trust me, they do not like him either. Colin eventually left to drink somewhere else. Colin is the bane of my existence, and seeing him immediately ruins my shift. I have taken it as my eternal duty to protect my less confrontational coworkers from his behavior and bully him directly whenever I see him. I hate him with a burning passion, and I often fantasize about the day that he will say something stupid enough that I can simply hand him his bill and tell him to go pound sand. To Colin and all other Colins out there, I hope you fall into an open sewer grate and are forced to live among mutated rat people, which is honestly exactly where you belong. Before we go any further, the original poster actually has an update. Here's what they had to say. Okay, so since some people are asking why Colin hasn't been banned yet, I wanted to give just a few reasons. The most important reason is that our GM who handles issues like this is also known for his poor behavior and doesn't see an issue with what staff have told him about Colin so far. He also hasn't witnessed any of Colin's less than acceptable behavior, and as such, he refuses to do anything about it. Now, I also want to answer why I'm still working there. Now, even though the GM is a jerk and regulars like Colin make me want to quit every now and then, I otherwise generally enjoy my job. I enjoy my coworkers and I enjoy the other guests that come along. Plus, I make some good money. I completed my bachelor's degree in December of 2023, and this job works while I get my next steps figured out. I am planning on being there until September of this year at the absolute latest, and I'm also planning on taking a long and well-deserved break this summer just to take an internship abroad. This is not permanent, but it is what it is, at least for the time being. Wow, that Colin guy is completely out of line. This guy literally was like, "Oh, you got a tattoo on your leg? Take off your pants, I want to see it." Like, I'm sorry, anyone with like a rational thought in their brain would have been like, "Yeah, you've got to go." And the fact that the general manager is not making that step, in my opinion, shows exactly the kind of person that guy is. Like, if I was the manager in that situation, that would be like an automatic ban. There would be no discussion about it. There would be no grace period or anything like that. That guy would be banned from the restaurant for good. So truly, I hope you're able to get out of that job sooner than later, because what you're working in right now sounds absolutely toxic. My boyfriend gets mad whenever I help him with his house, complaining that everything I do is never enough, while also making me feel like garbage just for helping. And right about now, I feel awful. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, so we've been together for 4 years. I often even stay at his place over the weekend, but we don't live together. I have a small studio apartment, so he never comes to my place. He has a stressful job and he does online schooling, so he is pretty busy. He is also medicated and has been diagnosed with ADHD and struggles with executive functioning. He can't seem to do things like stay organized or clean his house or anything like that. Now, I have a full-time job, but I'm pretty organized and I'm very willing to help him. Well, the issue is that when I help him, it backfires. It's like no good deed goes unpunished. To give an example, I had a conference last weekend, so I hadn't been over to his house in over a week. So when I got there, it was pretty unorganized. He said he didn't even have any clean clothing. So I did all the laundry, including all the towels and sheets and blankets, and trust me, it took quite a while. I also organized the kitchen as well as a few other things. And I don't feel used because he often pays for things, such as when we go out to eat, which does happen very often. Plus, I genuinely want to help him out. Well, this morning he texted me and he was very angry. He was upset because his shirt still had some dog hair on it, but I said that his clothes are covered in dog hair when I do the laundry, and I do my best to get rid of most of it, but some inevitably gets left on the shirt. Honestly, his whole house is always covered in dog hair, and when I'm there, I have to take allergy medications. I even bought him an air purifier and a Roomba, but there is still so much dog hair. But he sleeps with both dogs, so all the bedding is also covered in fur. Now, I told him to just use a lint roller, but he said no, that I should just get rid of the shirts if the dog hair doesn't come off. He then started complaining that I had only put some of the bottles of water in the fridge instead of putting all of them in there. I told him I just put the bottles from the pack that was opened in the fridge and didn't open all of the packs. Honestly though, I was busy and I just didn't get to it. He then tells me that I'm making excuses and to not bother helping if I don't do it properly because it just makes more work for him and upsets him. I know he was just in a bad mood because he was running late, but this is not a one-off situation. This scenario has happened several times over a variety of issues. It seems whenever I try to help him, if things aren't perfect, he just ends up mad. I have actually stopped helping him as much as I used to, specifically because of this problem. But then he just gets upset over that too. We have loose plans to live together when my lease comes up, but it's exactly this that gives me pause. He's really uptight about minor things, and I tend to get blamed for things I don't see as overly important. He says as his partner, I should be able to help him properly, I guess, even though I honestly try. And in return, he will pay for rent, food, and other things that we need. It's not that I don't want to help him, but it's just that everything is always wrong. So honestly, how can I address this with him? Today, I told him that him blaming me for things isn't very attractive, and that didn't go over well. I just need some suggestions on how we can work through this so that we can both be happy, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna be completely honest here, but if this isn't a giant red flag that maybe you should not move in with this guy, then I don't know what will be. Because what you've described seriously sounds so obnoxious. Nothing you ever do is ever good enough for this guy. Here you are cleaning his apartment and folding his clothes and doing his laundry, and he still has the audacity to act like you're doing it wrong. But it's like, dude, you're missing the fact that she's doing it in the first place. Like, this guy sounds not only incredibly obnoxious, but also incredibly ungrateful. It's almost like he just doesn't care that you've worked really hard to try and get his house in order. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would really be reconsidering living with this guy, because what you're experiencing now would be happening all the time. Like, this would be every single day of your life instead of like over the weekend when you stay at his place. And I'm just gonna say it, there's no reason why he couldn't use a lint roller to get the dog hair off of his shirt. Like, that literally is so easy to do, there's just no good excuse for that. Like, at that point, he's just being obnoxious, trying to blame you for things that he clearly isn't taking care of. So no, in my opinion, you didn't do anything wrong, and honestly, your boyfriend sounds like a piece of work. Today, I messed up by doing a butterfly release at my wedding as a tribute to my dad who passed away 13 years ago. But unfortunately, it went incredibly wrong, and now I feel horribly embarrassed and I just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So this didn't exactly happen today, but we're going on 2 years now and I can't get it out of my head. I'll preface this by saying that I had a beautiful wedding, the cake of my dreams, the 2 dresses of my dreams, a live painter, a live band, 175 of our closest friends and family. It was everything I wanted. The only thing missing was my dad. My dad passed away 13 years ago, and I knew I wanted to find a way to honor him. There was a time when I was younger where he played the song Butterfly Kisses for me, and he had us dance to it in the kitchen because he told me he knew he was sick and he wouldn't make it to my wedding day to dance with me. So when it came time to actually plan my wedding, I knew, of course, I wanted to honor my dad in some way. day, and the thought of that moment replayed in my mind. A butterfly release seemed like the most beautiful and sentimental way to honor him and have a really cool, unique experience at our wedding. Well, the wedding day was supposed to be in the 70s, and the temperature ended up dropping so much that morning. It rained when that wasn't in the forecast, and overall was just a seriously gloomy day. I didn't think anything of the butterflies, and I just went along with it. Sadly, because of the temperature drop, most of the butterflies didn't fly away. They were too cold and ended up just falling to the ground. We did have a few that flew away, but most of them did not. It broke my heart and it made me so embarrassed. Not only was I embarrassed that this happened in front of all my friends and family, but I also felt terrible from a moral standpoint as well. I got so wrapped up in the aesthetics of the wedding that I didn't stop to think that maybe this wasn't a good idea. I feel like everyone was laughing at me and making fun of the situation. And still, almost 2 years later, I feel like I don't know how to move past it. All of the good stuff from my wedding I feel like is overshadowed by this one stupid thing, and it really just sucks. I ended up spending an hour of the reception in the bridal suite having panic attacks, especially since I'm already someone that has crippling anxiety. My husband and I have thought about doing a vow renewal, but we aren't sure how that will go over. We were considering at the 5-year mark inviting about half the people from the original day, but making it literally just a big party where we can just enjoy ourselves since we didn't even have a dance at our wedding, except for like 10 minutes when my husband finally convinced me to try and have a few minutes of fun. Anyways, I know it was wrong to do, so I don't need judgment towards that. I just needed to get it off my chest and hopefully try to find ways to move past it and get over it. Because honestly, even to this day, I still regret it. So I totally understand where the original poster's coming from, where they feel like they ruined that moment for themselves and they just like embarrassed themselves in front of all their friends and family. But honestly, I think people understood where you were coming from. Even though the butterflies didn't fly away in the way you were imagining, I really would be hard pressed to think that anybody's like making fun of you for trying to do that. Like honestly, even me just reading that, that's like the first time I've ever heard of anybody even trying that. So that really is like a unique idea. Like I really like that idea overall. But honestly, if they really were your friends and family, the last thing they're gonna do is laugh at you trying to have some kind of tribute to your passed away father. If they did laugh, then trust me, they are not friends and they are not family. So truly, I would not be too hard on yourself. I think the thought truly is what counts in this scenario, and I think your friends, family, and everybody at that wedding could definitely stand by your side and say that that was a beautiful gesture and that it really was a good tribute to your father. My friend knowingly started dating a guy I was seeing, and now they are actively calling themselves boyfriend and girlfriend, and I'm so devastated that I just feel so broken. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I was somewhat seeing a guy for about 5 months. He never made it official, seemingly because I go to school on the opposite side of the state, but we started talking right before I left for school, and we went from casual conversations to sharing our life stories and staying up until 5 a.m. flirting with one another. I didn't tell too many of my friends because with my luck, things stop working out when I tell my friends about a guy that I'm interested in. So I just told 3 of my closest friends, one of which was very supportive and thought it would be the cutest couple. We went on one date when I came home to visit family for a weekend, and it went really well. Suddenly though, he pulled away and was acting different. One day I went on Instagram and I saw my friend post a picture with him, claiming him as her boyfriend. Well, my heart shattered into a million pieces, and I didn't want to start drama with her because we work together. For reference, we both work at a fast food restaurant. When we worked together over holiday break, she told me she felt bad about dating him, knowing that I liked him and that it happened too fast. And she didn't want me to think that she was a bad friend or not a girl's girl. I told her it was okay because I didn't want to start drama, but it hurt me so much. Now I've distanced myself from her and him as well. She always posts pictures of them together on social media, and it feels like she's rubbing it in my face. I have always been there for her, so it hurts me that she would betray me like this. She is much more attractive than I am, so she could have any guy she wants. But of course, she picks the one guy that I'm interested in, and the one guy that was actually interested in me for at least a little bit. With tomorrow being Valentine's Day, I'm not looking forward to seeing their lovey-dovey post on social media. I'm upset with him as well. Even though we weren't official, we still had feelings towards each other. We were close and he betrayed me by dating someone who he knew I was close with. I just don't get why people act like this, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, your friend is a piece of garbage. She literally went after the guy that you were interested in only after you went on a date with him and told her that you liked him. Like, that is so toxic, it's not even funny. And you know for a fact that's exactly what happened. Like, your supposed friend didn't even know he existed until you said, hey, I've got this guy guy that I'm really interested in. And then you showed pictures of him and told her more about him, and it's right about then that she started scheming against you. And that honestly is just not fair for you in the slightest. Like, in my opinion, if you have a friend who's interested in someone that you're currently kind of seeing, the least you can do is maybe check in to see if you guys are still dating or anything like that. But from the sounds of it, it really seems like she was already checking him out and getting with him while you two are still trying to figure things out. And that's why I think he suddenly pulled away and acted way different. It quite literally was your friend orchestrating all of this behind the scenes. So truly, with all things considered, I'm so sorry this happened to you. It really is awful that your friend betrayed you in this way, and hopefully you're able to move on and find somebody else. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.